Welcome to Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a Ko-Fi, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patrons, and do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So, a massive shout of thanks and appreciation to Thomas van der Zander, Cannabear, Gary Hughes, Measured Flat, Chris Wouters, Mr. Amish, Sensual Goat, Mitch Kennedy, Rod, The Name's Burley, Twad Wazzle, Jason Hornsby, Christoph Fournier, Flat Earth Travolta, J Mels 24, Yu Namento, M Iron 26, Endless, Goldie McKiernan, Retro Bill, Level Plain Poem, Michael Kahn, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Mel B Styles, Hairy Blade, Mobile Max 777, Rob W, Del West Watson, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Abraham Mohammed, Skeptic 936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, Chow Young Cat, David Wayne Foster, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
Yeah, you remember the what's his name, Mark Sargent? Yeah, remember the guys who got signed.
We don't want that secret hand gesture. It's suspicious. Actually, I don't think we want any. I think any kind of stuff like that might be suspicious. Actually, I don't know. What am I talking about? What do I know? I'm just making some chit chat, I guess. But yeah, the subject was how do we meet these people? How do we know somebody's FE out there, right? Maybe if he's looking up at the chemtrails, photographing it or something, we can be like, he might be FE.
Rules of which we do not speak of.
Say that again.
Are you one of those?
You
since
chopped
you mentioned, you can. You're going to get back.
Hold on, let me lower it a little bit. Let's get it down to basic quality. All right, try again, Casey.
No, as you're saying, when you meet someone, you're like, how would you know? I was saying, like, if you go up to them, like, oh, are you one of those of which we do not speak of? You never know how to react, you know.
I don't know. I thought you were gonna say, "Are you a conspiracy theorist?" I would open up with that. I think that's legit. Usually, conspiracy theorists come to FE. People that deny those things are even a thing. They're stuck in the ball still. I remember I was talking with one of them on Discord once. I'm like, "Do you believe in any conspiracy theories? That there's any conspiracies? Period?" And he said no. And then I was like, "That's it." I was at a loss for words. I didn't know where to go from there. I mean, if he hasn't spotted any of them before FE, how is he gonna swallow FE, right? So I just stopped.
Might be easy. FE is not a conspiracy. Flip it around on them. Say you're in a conspiracy. Say you're in a conspiracy now, called the heliocentric conspiracy.
The point still stands because you got to realize we had like a journeys towards FE, right? Like we started with JFK, maybe 9/11, then the moon landings, and then finally FE. Actually, no, before FE it was GMOs and stuff like that, and then after GMOs it was FE. So I had like I got built up. I noticed there was a lot of nonsense out there, so that you know what I'm saying.
I didn't even know how to use YouTube. I never even went on YouTube until my brother told me about it. Then I started searching out this flat earth stuff. I didn't even know how to how to what do you call subscribe to a channel. Never even went near it. Used to listen to sports radio all day as I worked. I didn't come through no conspiracy.
Oh, so if you listen to sports radio, you must have been super indoctrinated. And I got you. That's quite the testimony, then.
Yeah, it's just that it was either music or sports radio until he mentions alert to me, and I thought he was out of his mind.
All right. Well, did you notice before FE that there are some things that you couldn't trust?
I'm trying to think. I think after Flat Earth, then I started like looking into 9/11 because some things didn't. I don't know if I come to realization before or after Flat Earth about the whole 9/11 thing.
Oh. Oh, you might be a rare case then. Maybe we need to study you, see what's going on here.
Even the moon landings, I thought we landed on the moon. You couldn't tell me anything different.
No, I learned that lesson
had
about
answers for
2000.
everything. I had answers for the flag not moving. I think I did.
Maybe you don't know this stuff. It was before or after, really. Like I can tell you in chronological order how it went down for me.
Well, I'm trying to think I think it was after, because like I said, I really wasn't until I came to Flat Earth. That's when I started looking into other things. Yeah, it was definitely after.
Huh. All right.
You all okay
So
if we
would
carry
you
on
say?
looking? You all okay if we carry on looking at the same debate we were looking at yesterday?
Yes, I want to hear from Witsit at some point. Brian said he did great. Huey said he's a numpty. I want to weigh it out.
Okay, then we'll certainly find that out, I guess.
I've still got like 10 minutes left to watch of it. It's just getting the time.
And QV's also doing a show later today, also, right?
Yep.
Right. So maybe a good proper plug for him since he hasn't been on for a while.
Yeah, I'll do that in the live show.
He hasn't been live in over a month, Huey.
I used to think QE and 10th Man were the same person, but in different moods. Yeah, I didn't know who was who, so I thought, oh, who's this guy? Oh, so when QE was talking, I thought that was 10th Man in a bad mood, and when he's not in a bad mood, I thought he was 10th Man. I thought it was the same person.
Hey Neil, ever since our discussion about a week or so ago about baseball, my YouTube algorithm has had some baseball shorts in it that the title of the short actually, yeah, well, see, yeah, the title of the shorts actually kind of not made me, but helped me decide whether or not to watch it. It was one of them was baseball's most hated umpire, and in the shorts, I mean, this guy, home
Hernandez.
plate umpire. I forgot what his name was, but this guy, a home plate umpire, called the strike whenever it was like over a foot outside the batter's box, man.
Yeah, that's Hernandez. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it said it's the world's most hated baseball umpire. And ever since then, I've kind of watched the follies and the most embarrassing moments. And I mean, I seen one where the guy line drive. I think it was a line drive to shortstop, and he instead of throwing it to first, he threw it on the ground. I don't know if it slipped out or what, but my God.
Well, you know, baseball. The weird thing about baseball is it's based on failure, especially in the batter's box. Because think about it: if you get every time you're at bat, every 10 at bats you take, if you're able to get 3 hits, you're good. So you got to be able to suck up failure in baseball. You know what I'm saying?
You're right. I don't know. It just seemed like the videos that. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, most of the time, you're not getting hit. I mean, it's only the really good bat is that bat over 300. It's rare to find today. And it's a type of sport where there's different scenarios going on. Every situation is different with baseball. It's a thinking sport, too. You understand what I'm saying? You got to know what to do if a man's on second and the ball's hit to you. How many outs there are. Where to go with the ball. Many different scenarios in baseball.
Yeah. There's even one part of the short where the outfielder caught the ball. It was caught the ball, and then there was only 1 out, but he thought it was 2 outs, and went ahead and gave the ball to one of the people in the stadium, and then he had to start running to the dugout, and then he had to go run back and get the ball because he seen that the runners have scored or some shit. It's like, my God, it just seems like the videos that I've watched ever since our encounter talking about it helps prove my point that it's rigged.
Okay,
I don't know if you can call it rigged. It's hard.
Fascinating, wild speculation about sport this is. Hopefully I can warm you up to a flat earth discussion.
Well, just like...
We can only hope.
Oh, I didn't know it was 8 o'clock yet. Nathan, my bad.
Nah, it's fine. It's the pre-show, Matthias. If you want to talk about sports, I'm not going to stop you. I haven't. I've let you chat, but I'm hoping that the conversation
it's about conspiracy. So they're talking about conspiracy, righteous. People come to it through conspiracy. So through conspiracy, you know, he's saying that there's a conspiracy in baseball to freaking say that it's rigged.
Okay, well, one of the things that some of the commenters like about the show, not just one, quite a few, to the point where they'll note the fact that many other people who cover this subject, that's flat earth, will waffle off into la-la land with speculative claims they can't prove. Whereas here, we stop that. We ask people to substantiate their claims. And if they can't, we just don't accept them. Now...
Right. So, oh, my bad. I thought you were done.
No, go ahead, Matthias. I'm trying to segue us on. I don't want to lead you to the point where you're like, oh, right, well, that shut down my conversation. I'm trying to segue, you know, so I want to do it in the politest possible way. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, just like Neil pointed out, these are professional baseball players, and these guys can't even catch a ball, don't even know how many outs there are, throwing the ball on the ground instead of to first base. I mean, they're
That's
professionals,
ridiculous,
right,
Matthias. I can rebut that. Hold on, I can rebut all of that right now. It's happened to me,
Neil,
and I'm not professional. A ball gets caught in the guy's hand, he goes to throw it. You lose track of how many outs there are. That happens. That doesn't validate that it's fixed. You're joking me, right?
They're supposed to be professionals, though, Neil. You said yourself.
Perfect. Hold on. No. You're talking about perfection.
Well,
we're human beings. We're flawed.
Neil, you said yourself they're supposed to know how many outs there are, right? You said that yourself.
I said there's all different scenarios. I never said that. I said you have to know so many different things. There's all different scenarios. So in those scenarios, if you don't know what base to go to, you're not going to let me finish?
Nathan,
I know exactly what your claim is.
Nathan, are you recording this pre-show? And
you must
live?
always assume I'm recording. If I'm here, that's why I'm here. So yes, absolutely.
Right. Did anybody else hear Neil say that they need to know how many outs there are? Or was that guy I spoke the other day?
Hold on a second. Let me jump in, guys.
Mine.
Hold on a second. Let me jump in. It's clearly that Neil likes his baseball and sports. Let's just let him enjoy his baseball and sports.
No, that has nothing to do with it. That has nothing to do with it. Of course, you have to know how many outs, but you think they're perfect? That nobody makes an error? That's why there's a column in baseball called errors. Hello?
Hello, hold on a second. Righteous just ruffled your head and humoured you. Why won't you just accept that?
Because you can't validate it that it's fixed. You can't show me proof that baseball's fixed. Now, I can show you. They get
just like
of the 1812 World Series. That's even speculation.
Hold on, Neil. There's a potential false comparison coming up. Go ahead, Matthias.
Right. He said that nobody can show Neil that baseball's fixed, just like nobody can show a veteran heliocultist that the Earth isn't a globe.
False comparison.
It's because you don't want to see it, Neil.
False comparison.
No, it's because they don't want to see it, just like you don't want to see it.
What evidence you got? Now you've compared it.
I don't care.
You've given me that segue. I'm not going to let that go. I'm going to get my teeth into that, Matthias. Thank you very much. Nice segue. Right. You say you can, by comparison, prove, to make it a justifiable comparison, that baseball's rigged, where we can show that the globe is a derivation of a flat Earth measurement. We can show in the maths where it isn't actually a true curved surface, it's a derivation mathematically from a flat surface. So where's your evidence that baseball's rigged to make it a true comparison? Go ahead.
Or said that they're supposed to be professionals. And whenever you don't even know how many outs there are, and you flop a game, yeah, that's a dead giveaway.
Neil, hold on.
We got that.
Hold on, Neil, stop. We got that. Is that the standard?
You are.
Everyone calm down.
Get the fuck out of
Stop
here,
swearing,
man.
number one.
Hey, no swearing, guys.
Stop
My
swearing,
God.
firstly. Secondly, if that's the standard, fine. Just say yes, that's the standard. They're professionals. They don't know how many outs there are, whatever standard you're saying they're forgotten. If that's the standard, fine. Is there anything else?
I mean, is there not an out count on the scoreboard that everybody can see, Neil? No? I know in Little League there is.
You never made a mistake playing baseball. I know I did, and I wasn't getting paid.
I'm not a professional. False equivalence.
Okay, stop.
Doesn't matter.
Okay,
You're not a perfect human being.
Stop.
Don't make mistakes.
Stop. You're just yelling at each other.
Nathan,
Hello,
hold on.
stop.
Let me finish.
Right.
So
it doesn't matter that a
I've got to be able to
non-professional
control
baseball player
you
makes
two.
mistakes.
Stop. I can't control you when you're arguing about baseball. What hope have we got when there's actually a guest here? Just calm down.
Stop swearing, too. What are you swearing about?
Stop swearing. Right, it is a false comparison. It's nowhere near the same when we can show mathematically Earth curve being derived from flat surfaces, proving that it's not really a curve if it's below the surface level. Obviously, that's a standard that people can qualify and justify and get behind and understand. There's no belief required. It's a demonstration of a fact. Whereas when you say a or an individual didn't keep track of something during a game, people are fallible, therefore it's false comparison. If there's anything else, though, you strongly suspect, and nobody's decrying that. Nobody's saying you're wrong, apart from Neil. Yeah, you've presented your standards of evidence, fine. Honestly, they're a bit weak. Don't get angry at me. That's just the case, you know. But you can take that as your position in terms of sports if you want to believe they're not real, or what was it you said, thrown, or I can't remember the word you used.
Fixed. He says it's fixed. Nathan, let me just say one thing about baseball. There's a line. It's called the line.
Neil, just put a load of stuff to Matthias so he can respond, and then you can respond calmly. Go ahead, Matthias.
No, it's plain and simple that he's not willing to even look beyond his baseball fantasies.
Ad hom, stop.
It's no point.
Ad hom, stop.
It's total ad hom.
Stop. Anything else?
I'm just saying we might. I figured I could get somewhere with him today, but nah. Just like talking to a ball-tard.
More ad hom, stop.
No, false
Just
comparison.
getting
ad
one
hominem.
more
Nathan,
chance,
let me
Neil. Just
finish,
chill,
please.
Neil. I'll open it for you, and you're just rumpusing him. So what, are you going to moan when he does it to you in a minute? Just calm down. Anything else, Matthias? Is that it?
It's clear to see he doesn't want to see the forest for the tree.
Anything beyond
like
the
a
ad homs?
Glover.
Didn't I think I'd have to make that clear? In terms of the...
No, it's an assessment.
Hey.
Assessment made.
Fine, you can assess Neil all you like. Neil, go ahead.
There's a column in baseball. It's in the score thing. You got the innings, right? And in that has a big E for errors. A team is accountable for errors that they make. Okay? That's an error the guy made. I've seen it a few times where guys lost track of the outs. That's why the shortstop will hold up how many outs there are. And if he's looking somewhere else, he don't see it. He's distracted. He lost count of how many outs there were. That's your proof that baseball's fixed? Really?
Yeah, we covered
Neil,
that, Neil. We covered
on
that.
the scorecard where everybody can see there's an out count, ball count, strike count,
Okay, we
inning
got
count.
that. We got all this. We're just covering stuff again.
The guy in the outfield
both of
can't
you
see, he's
stop.
got his back to
Neil,
it.
Neil and Matthias. It seems we've covered everything. Thank you, both of you. That was wonderful. Hearing it again 6 more times from both of you over the top of each other yelling isn't much fun. Gotta be honest. But we got it. We got everything, I think.
No, I didn't tell you one. He's saying the outfielder. They don't have, their backs are to the scoreboard. Every stadium is different. Some have it in front of them and behind them. I was watching a game last night where there was the scoreboard behind the outfielders.
So you're saying that these
Just saying
professionals are now too lazy to rotate 180 degrees and to see what's going on about the game.
I watched the game the other night, and they had the guy mic'd up. Hold on. They had the guy mic'd up, okay? And a ball was hit to him as a guy was asking him questions. He had his back to the freaking scoreboard the whole time. But he knew where to go with the baseball because he's an excellent baseball player. Now, some of them are better than others. That can't be your proof that because the guy made an error. That's ridiculous, Matthias.
Well, about a week ago, we talked about it to begin with, and I think it originated with the baseball strike. I think you said in the 94, 91 or something like that. And you was trying to justify how these professional baseball players should get paid a lot of money, even though they don't even know what out it is. Go on, Neil. Try to justify that.
The Stars get the big money. That's why they had to strike. They had to strike because they wanted to make sure the other guys that weren't the Stars also got paid the money that they deserve. There's only a handful that get the $1 million contracts, like Juan Soto.
Right.
Okay, let me just...
They gave their life and dedicated...
Stop a second. Right. So, Neil's counter-argument is, yes, people make errors, and I don't know if it's true in all sports, but sometimes they keep track of both forced and unforced errors. That is to say, your opponent forced you into a position where you made a mistake versus you just inadvertently made a mistake, right? Well, if that costs you, that's your side, then that's how, life goes generally. I'm sure the other day you were here, Matthias, when I was talking about Christina Aguilera, and she's doing the Mulan singing, and as far as she is concerned, professional singer, she can hit a certain note. As soon as she's in the Disney soundstage with a massive 150-piece orchestra and a giant screen and everyone getting paid and the clock ticking and lots of money involved, suddenly the pressure's on and she can't hit the note. So they have to do several retakes with her under pressure and having to have breaks and counselling from her mother to keep her in check so she can actually get up and hit this note that she can definitely hit. But sometimes you don't. People are people. I don't know. I said it was a weak standard. We've covered it. We've covered the strike. We'll maybe cover baseball again, but can we draw a line under this now? Because I hope I've drawn out of both of you everything there is to discuss to the point where you'll just start yelling over the top of each other the same points again and again. We'll discuss this again.
I'm good with it.
I do have a segue though.
I was going to say, I said that about 5 minutes ago.
Fine, good.
He ain't gonna.
Neil wanted the last word, Matthias. Take the high road.
Yeah, I do. Matthias wasn't good enough to be a professional baseball player.
Adhom, stop.
He's got an act against him.
Stop. Don't need to start telling us what Matthias is.
Tell me how many baseball games you watch me play.
Here we go. Well done, Neil. There's a segue in there.
Well, I don't see how he can.
Fine, round 2.
I don't see how he can make that assessment whenever he's never
Wait,
played a baseball game.
wait. I don't want a round 2. Come on, guys. Let's leave it at round 1 and move on.
Yeah, I'm done.
Well, I just don't see how he can make that assessment whenever he's never seen me play a baseball game. I was actually,
You can't. Your assessment of his ability to assess your standard of evidence. Excuse me. Big gulp of Coke before I started that sentence. Yes. We're going to the ad-homs. Stop.
He's the one that
For
said
the
it.
love of God, Neil. After the conversation yesterday about not making things inaudible. Yeah, just calm down. That's how people are, right? For all of you out there, conspirators or otherwise, that listening on a conversation between a ball believer and a globe earth believer and a flatty, and go, he's obviously a paid shill. Like, no. People will start throwing ad-homs and using fallacious logic and reasonably, don't take this the wrong way, Matthias, low standards of evidence to make their point. Doesn't make them shills, just makes them people. Meanwhile, on the show, what it seems the audience pride the show on in terms of what they take out from the show is our unilateral ability as a group to have a very, very high standard of evidence and hold people to task, even when it's baseball. Now, obviously, I'd prefer we were talking about the nature of reality as that's the show title, but it doesn't change what we do and how we do it. Now, don't get me wrong, Matthias, I'm glad to hear your points. They're interesting to a degree. I'm not a big baseball fan. But yeah, hopefully it's warmed everybody up, if nothing else.
You know what the good thing about baseball? Here's a good segue.
It's all
The
fixed.
game cannot be played unless the field is level.
I was
That's
about
lovely.
to say, has anyone ever hit the ball took an angle to it?
Well, I was going to say, as I said a week ago during our first baseball interaction, Neil, I told you that I used to play Little League baseball every year, and I was damn good. And I was thinking about, at the time, becoming a professional baseball player. That's all I did, even after school. I was a pitcher, a good shortstop, pretty much play any position on the field very good, very well. However, whenever the baseball strike came about, that's what turned me against baseball, Neil.
Oh, okay, I got you. Sorry,
Yeah,
I thought you
that
said you weren't good enough to make it.
No, I was one of the best players on the team, man.
Well, it
This is
took
like-
a lot more
I'm
dedication to
guessing
make
your
it
age.
pro. You know that, right?
I'm guessing your age, but this is like
Well,
30 years ago.
obviously they're not
Matthias,
professional.
is this like 30 years ago or something?
Yeah. Well, yeah, probably.
Let it go, man. Let it go.
Right, I'm 43, so
Oh, you're my age and Nathan's age. We're all in the 43 club.
43 club,
You born in 80 then?
81.
I'm a 90s boy.
What? You're 81? Not the same.
Yeah, obviously there's going to be some overlap, but yeah, close enough.
Oh yeah.
Wait,
There's
I
a
guess I'm
hybrid-
42.
Oh, okay.
I'll be 43 this year in August.
For me and Nathan, it's
And now
easy
we're
to
going to
keep
talk
track
about
of our.
age.
Yes, Neil,
It's
it's
good.
just a light-hearted warm-up. When it's baseball, bloody hell, we get right into the wrangle-dangle and a moderating debate between you two numpties. But now we're talking about age, suddenly it's a problem.
Because I didn't finish yet. I wanted to make one more statement about it that I can make a comparison. You can say, well, they're not professional. Doesn't matter. It would have seemed to the everyday watcher that this game was fixed. I was in an organized league, and we were the best team in the league at that time. We played a team that did not win one game, okay? We were going to go out there and destroy them. Little did we know that they practiced all week. They had certain plays. They took it to us like they were the undefeated team, to the point where we came out tied 12-12. But if that was on a professional level, you would have swore the game was fixed.
All right, let's not bite on that. Let's continue with age. I think that's pretty good. I'll just say this about age. For me and Nathan, it's easy for us to keep our age, track of our age, because if it's 2023, that means we're turning, we're 43, right? And then if it's 2024, that means we're 44, and so on and so forth, because we were born in 1980, so it's a nice round number.
Mine goes by the Super Bowl. How many Super Bowls are played?
Oh boy! What happened to the segue?
I'm as old as the Super Bowl.
All right, one more thing before we go live. There's a demand for this video, like a couple of days in a row. So I'm not today, because today we made up our mind. But maybe sometime after today, we can cover this video that somebody keeps requesting. His name is Lee Brown Tattoo from Discord, and he wants to cover this debate with Effie Dave and who's that other guy? Dave Weiss. So just something to keep in mind going forward, guys. Okay.
Okay. Any particular reason? If he's so keen, did he say because X, Y, Z?
I don't know if he did. He might have did earlier, but I don't know. But he is pretty keen. I might ask him later on and see what he says.
You try and stay on mute if you're not talking, Matthias. Hot mic a little bit. Thank you.
Matthias, come back, Matthias.
No, it's good. You at the end there, I think he's just dropped, presumably, but you offered a little bit of empathy to his cause by describing a circumstance where the perception could be that it was rigged, which was good. You know, he's going to appreciate that you've taken on board some of his points by giving back an example that he can slot into his argument that also counters his position. So well done.
Don't get me wrong. When my team loses sometimes, I think it's fixed. I'm like, how can this be? But you're never going to know, Nathan, unless they come right out and they make it like wrestling, where they're all in the actors union and it's paid entertainment. But it's not like that with baseball, football. They're athletes. They're not in the actors union.
Yeah, I can see how my frustration is that this sort of mindset or thinking has come from all the roads feast of nonsense in nature that bring us to this subject, when this subject isn't in a conspiratorial realm. It's just been forced into that realm by making the people who talk about it be that type of person. And it is massively to my frustration. Like I say, the comments that I get from people are like, no, I really appreciate the fact that you will only allow substantiable claims through the mill and nothing else. And everything else gets shut down, or obviously after requests for validation haven't been forthcoming, they get, put to the wayside, put on the back burner. That's what happens here. So I like that. And it's good to hear it when a lot of my frustration is because of the types of people that are surrounding us in this subject. They're hippies. They're conspiratorial types that I don't necessarily feel comfortable around, because I don't necessarily... I might find some amusement in the conspiratorial views that they hold, but that's all I see it as. Until there's some substantial evidence, and there's people out there in the alternative conspiracy truth realm that do offer substantiation to their claims, and those are obviously more interesting to me. But for the most part, most people in Flat Earth have got no idea how to standardize what they put out there. They don't have to put any evidence to what they're claiming. They think that a decent story alongside it is a good enough standard to go along with repeating it, and it's just annoying to me. It makes us all look stupid. So, I feel we're the antidote to that, and I want it to remain that way.
I agree 100%. And it was even like that. I think we were in politics when that guy came in. I think he was a flat earther with some stupid experiment he thought he had with lasers. I mean, you're right. He has no idea what validates a claim.
Yeah.
And the other thing, that's why I like the show too, because my brother's here. Because there's no nonsense here. That's why I was hard on Johnny the other day. You want to come with ether, you want to claim that it's scientifically validated, then you better show. And he couldn't show.
I don't know, maybe the reputation of being harsh to absolutely everybody. It's not your affiliation with a group called Flat Earth that will get you by in this particular discussion forum. A really high standard of evidence will. I'm happy where we're at. I'd feel a lot more pressure if I had lots of unsubstantiatable claims out there. And initially, I might have put a few out there in the first couple of years, but you quickly learn. As more and more people who don't quickly learn pile in and pour in the mold more and more garbage. Anyway. Amongst those claims was somebody who suggested that the purveyors of nonsense are promoted algorithmically more favourably than I am. Now that is where it compares and contrasts in the same conspiratard nonsense to our subject. The fix is in. The people who are peddling nonsense get promoted so that they hit more of the mainstream than you peddling the truth, which isn't as sexy as, I don't know, ether or whatever. Now, I see that as nonsensical as claiming that a game's fixed without evidence. It's like, unless you can show me that I'm not algorithmically favoured, then I'm not going to believe you. And unless you sit and compare stats, then who cares? It's meaningless drivel. But people want to believe in a hidden hand that's holding whatever they like, in this case my show, back. And you're like, I don't know. What's, if anything, holding us back? When there's a universal YouTube algorithmic censorship on this subject. That means it's going to apply to anybody covering this subject regardless, as far as I'm concerned. They're all getting the tramp stamp. None of them are getting anywhere near the numbers that they got when they were first gaining popularity within the subject. I, even then, grew slower than some of my counterparts. So, that's just down to how it goes. What you do might not be as favoured as what other people do, and you can try and explain that with things like people enjoy fantasy more than they enjoy straight up reality. Maybe that's true. And maybe that is a justifiable reason to explain why they'd gain more popularity with nonsense versus truth. Does that mean there's a hidden hand? Nope. It does not. I've got to press buttons. Talk amongst yourselves. Hopefully it doesn't go quiet like it does typically at this sort of time of day.
Right, talking among ourselves, right?
Start the show?
He's pushing buttons. We're still here.
Oh, yeah, I pulled up to the delivery and my brother's truck was here. The same brother that told me about Flat Earth, so when I pause, talk to him a little bit.
How about
crazy
this?
because he was ahead of me on it, but he's still in a conspiracy world. He's still in a feast of nonsense. He'll bring up ice walls and things like that. I'm like, what are you doing?
Oh, but how about this? You came through FE through your brother, who was a conspiracy theorist. So by indirectly through conspiracies, you still came to FE.
I
How
didn't
about
say
that?
that. I
I
didn't
said
say he
that.
was into conspiracy. I don't know if he was. You just told me
Oh,
about
you should
flat
ask
Earth.
him.
I'm saying now he still talks about feast of nonsense stuff.
That's conspiracy.
Like, yeah, but I don't know if he was into it before flat Earth.
You should ask.
I think that's
still
what
there now?
stops his wife, my sister-in-law, from coming because of all the other things he talks about. Like I told you, he went back to Hebrew roots, and he's off on a tangent with that.
All right. Well, are you still there, Neil?
Always
Just
assume
starting
I'm
that.
here when you see my
Oh,
picture.
you are.
Can't see
What? See your
He's
picture?
in
What are you talking
Discord.
about? I'm in Discord, Neil. I know Nathan's about to start any second now, so I don't know when I'm going to lose you.
Good afternoon,
How
guys.
are you?
Good morning.
Yeah, I'm very well indeed. We've got a popular demand, which isn't typically the case if we've already covered a video, but lots of people got in touch and said, please cover this Witsit and Prof Dave video more. So I'm like, fine. You know, it saves me a job looking for something else to cover. We've only got about 6 minutes into 2 hours of it. Brian wants to cover all of this again on ballbusters, which sounds absolutely tedious, but there we go. I'm going to plod my way through it regardless. So we're going to basically start off where we left off yesterday on yesterday's live stream, unless anybody's got any comments that they wanted to add in the meantime. Super keen panel as well, obviously. Really good stuff. Well, we'll see how we get on. If you want to interject, feel free.
Session, I will continually drag him back to very simple, naked eye observations and basic logic that prove the Earth is a sphere without any understanding of physics whatsoever. Number one, the observations of the stars. In the northern hemisphere, the stars rotate counterclockwise. In the southern
Did we cover all this?
Yeah, we covered that. I don't understand. He started off by saying regular observations of Earth, and he talks about the sky.
Yeah.
stars. So in the north, can't see Southern Cross. In the south, can't see Polaris. Speaking of the Southern Cross, in order to get the pizza land, he has to take the point that is the South Pole and unwrap it to get.
Do we want to stick with Dave's claims? We covered all of this. He's expanding on what he's already basically covered up until now. And he did so in such a concise way in his summary that we've basically pulled apart all of these claims anyway. So in terms of this observation that he's got on screen now, it's claimed to be the case, but no one's ever actually presented it being done. That's the first problem. The second problem is claiming that it doesn't work on some projection is irrelevant. All we need to see is reality in terms of how we measure Earth. Now, these affirming the consequent formal logical fallacies were great in 2015 and 16 and maybe even 2017, but now they're just old hat. You know, if P then Q, Q therefore P, in terms of either a globe proof or a flat Earth debunking, it's just old and boring. Now, more than anything, people have actually requested specifically that they want to hear what Witsit's got to say, more than Dave. So, with all due respect to you, Dave, this garbage has been covered so much that your summary is good enough. So I'm going to spin through until we get to Witsit, unless there's something that I see that's particularly interesting because it wasn't already mentioned. What's this? 24-hour trip. Oh, this is on topic. Maybe we should cover this.
Person lately has been offering fully paid trips to the South Pole so that flat earthers can see the 24-hour sun, and they are all busy crapping their pants trying to make excuses to not go.
Not really. I mean, I don't want to go. But again, we'll deal with what we just dealt with 25 seconds ago, which is that this is just another affirming the consequent formal logical fallacy straight off the bat, like they all are. So, if we observe a 24-hour sun in Antarctica, then we have a rotating globe. We do have a rotating globe because we observe a 24-hour sun in Antarctica. It's an affirming the consequent formal logical fallacy straight out of the gate. Furthermore, from first-hand testimony, we don't have a 24-hour sun in Antarctica. It doesn't go a full 360 rotation above the horizon. That is not the accounts that I have been given from people who spent a prolonged period there. That would be specifically Robert Shortman. But what they want to do is affirm the consequent. Doesn't matter if it's Earth turn, rotation based on an axis that's derived from a flat plane. They want to take the plane that is used and measured and put it into a formal logical fallacy, in this case affirming the consequent with the sun being above the horizon. Now, even if it was true, it wouldn't prove we were on a rotating body or that it was spherical. It's non sequitur in that regard. Part of the affirming the consequent formal logical fallacy is the non sequitur nature of the Q statement. That is to say that your P statement doesn't necessarily follow that the Q statement has any bearing on it whatsoever. Yeah? If Earth is rotating, well, there's a way to beg the question. Then we will observe star rotation in one direction and the other. If we turn around, we do observe two directions, relative, if I turn around. Therefore, we're on a rotating sphere. See how that works? Well, all of the arguments are like that, but in this case, we've got this particular example claimed to be an experiment. So one of the pastors, he's from a ministry, has come up with a formal logical fallacy, affirming the consequent, shock horror, and claimed it's an experiment. History repeats itself. The same thing was done by Bob and Jaron and latched onto by Netflix, so that the affirming the consequent we were using in the negative, when failed, had a new affirming the consequent invented by Bob Nodell, using ether rather than Earth rotation as the Q statement. Now, in this instance, we've got the exact same problem. We've got an affirming the consequent, but it's claimed to be science. That is to say, it's an experiment. So my first question to the ministry, the pastor that got in touch with me via my video, in my comments, he was asked for the independent variable, dependent variable, and null. Now, have we got those things? Of course not. It's completely invalid. It's not an experiment. It's not science. It's not going to prove anything. It's an affirming the consequent formal logical fallacy. But all Dave says is, we're all terrified to go? No? Number one, I don't want to go to some cold, horrible place that there's nothing to do. But if what I can affirm the consequent along with you, commit that fallacy, suddenly it's a worthy journey? Definitely not. We'll listen to a little bit more.
That's what I was going to say.
Go ahead.
That's what I was going to say. It's not an experiment. And the other thing is, what are they saying? We're all shaking in our boots to go there. This is where they're at now. It's all they have.
Ad hominem and poisoning the well.
It's pretty funny.
It's an ad hominem attack and poisoning the well fallacy in lieu of the affirming the consequent. Essentially, it's a string of fallacies.
Once again, on a globe Earth, this makes perfect sense. Day is when you're facing the sun. Night is when you're facing away. Pretty simple.
Not really. Your radial value derivation of orbital motion and axial rotation needs a flat Earth measurement in the first instance to derive out those values to put into Keplerian orbits and have an axis to rotate about. You've got to derive it from a plane of reference. What an axis is, perpendicular to the plane. That's how it's described in your globe model, because that is how it tallies with the world that we actually inhabit and measure. These guys like to measure a flat Earth, derive it through Kepler into a ball, and then reify that ball into the world we're actually standing on, and then say, this works perfectly. You're like, no, what works perfectly is our angular account of what the sun does. It's then transposed into the notion of an axial rotation, derived from flat plane measurements. For you to believe in your reification that you're standing on a sphere, to claim that it works, when it's merely the only aspect of physical functionality, is derived from the flat Earth measurements in the first instance, so it can back engineer itself into the angle measurements of the sun in this instance, or the stars. So we can have mapping and navigation and globes.
Number 3, Southern Hemisphere causes trouble. For years, flat earthers have been pretending that there are no direct flights in the Southern Hemisphere.
Straw man argument. Do I need to cover all this? This is all the 2015, 16, 17 garbage that's been covered about a bazillion times. We'll spin on till we get to a bit of Witsit.
Able to discuss any of the centrism. This debate that we're yours, that the Earth is flat. That's
Yeah,
kind of
okay. Just so everyone knows, but also.
Okay, hopefully that's the end of the string of baseless assertions and ad hominem fallacies and all the rest of the crap that Dave will have to spew. We'll see how Witsit gets on.
So that the Earth is at the center of the universe too, right? Is that one?
Well,
Are those two things combined?
Oh my god. The quartering is asking if the sun is at the middle when the system they're debating about is called heliocentric. That is sun at center. Helios, sun. Centric, center. And he's asking if they're combined. You're debating heliocentrism, my friend. I mean, this is pretty basic to ask this question. Seems. Why are you even in this discussion? Why are you allowing two people to debate if you have no idea where to interject as a moderator?
I mean, yeah, there is no universe if there's right. Okay, it doesn't matter. Go ahead. Whatever.
Okay, well, no, that's fine. We'll just go right to the Dave's. Or I'm sorry.
Fair enough.
Well, wait, what happened?
He just left.
He left?
Well, he might have just. Maybe he'll come back. He might have clicked. Right, there he is. So at 446, you have your 7.
It's our position is that the Earth is a geocentric stationary.
Let's just stop him right there. Our position. All right. Let's just crick my neck a little bit. You're not my ambassador, right? I challenge quite a few things you say, Witsit. So your position is what you will put forward here, right? Our position. Let's not absorb the stereotype like you represent me. Okay?
Plane. This feeble attempt to separate the conversations is disingenuous. If the Earth is stationary, it's in the center of the universe. None of the kinematics or dynamics, even of geocentrism, is exclusive to sphericity. That is just a get out of jail card because he will not be able to defend the claim that we're moving around the sun. To very quickly go.
Well, whether or not he can or can't defend it still is reliant on the measurements of a flat plane that are used by Kepler. So, regardless of whether or not he can defend it, if he does a good job, all it does is prove the back engineering of the model's initial measurements, which are flat. So, win for the globe. Again, this is perhaps a little bit above most people's pay grade when they're debating this subject. But the origins of the globe, if they form a coherent explanation for what's occurring, are only as a direct result of the origins of their measurements. So Kepler taking angles to the stars and celestial sphere and ephemeris and putting them into an orbital motion based on a sphericity we don't actually have is just a win for flat Earth. Because when you're going to say, well, this wins because what the curved surface is what makes it function? No. The flat Earth will make it function to be capable of turning into a sphere for him to say this only functions on a sphere. No, it only functions on a flat Earth. That's how we measure it. You've converted that measurement into your sphere to claim it works.
Go through some of this. Falsification is independent of replacement. And so what always happens is people don't defend the globe. They just want to ask millions of questions to the flat earthers.
Yeah, absolutely correct. It's not your job to explain formally answered questions, if wrong, from a heliocentric perspective. If the heliocentric perspective can explain why the sky is blue and you debunk their claim, you don't have to suddenly explain why the sky is blue. Absolutely correct.
And somehow if a flat earther doesn't know the answer, then all of a sudden the globe model becomes true. And then, of course, the burden of proof is the one making the positive claim. And then shifting the burden is making the other person prove why your claim isn't true. So if I read a book and say all these fairy tales exist, I don't have to prove that unicorns don't exist. Very simple concept that gets overlooked consistently in this debate. Oftentimes we get what's called a straw man fallacy. People say that this is what flat earth is.
So interesting. What is he doing? He's taking about the position as it will be discussed and debated rather than just laying out his evidence. This is how the debate
Yep.
will take place, is what he's now going through. Does everyone pick up on that? Detailing his knowledge
Yeah,
of
I
fallacies
did. I don't
and how
know
they're
why he's
committed.
not coming right out of the gate. Forget about everything Dave said. Just come right out of the gate and show that Earth is measured flat. Boom, over.
Sure, but alternatively, what he's doing is he's explaining, he's not doing a bad job of it, don't get me wrong, how the debate progresses in terms of summarising what Dave has just done in his opener. Now, I don't know if he was privy to what he'd be doing, but, you know, based on past experience, he's going to know what happens, isn't he? Witsit, that is. And he's summarising it quite nicely. This is the state of debate, if you will, that Witsit's going through. But the state of the debate isn't the debate. The debate is whether or not Earth's flat.
Is, and they point and laugh, and no one that I know thinks that it's a flat disk in a solar system. That's ridiculous. Hopefully we can prevent these, but these are the typical fallacies used. Of course, a straw man fallacy, which we just discussed, ad hom, attacking the person instead of the argument, credentials. Oh, you're not qualified to talk about this. Appeal to how what everyone else thinks, appeal to authority.
Yeah, okay, we got that. Yeah, this is the state of the debate. Now get into it, though. You know, good the first time around. It didn't need the summary. You've only got a limited amount of time.
Reasoning the well, begging the question, shifting the burden of proof. These are always used. Everyone was taught the Earth's a globe when they were young. That doesn't mean it's true. So let's just quickly go through the basic claims here.
Wow, this is his opener. You were taught it from birth, doesn't mean it's true. Not a very high standard, gotta be honest.
Claim 1 is that the Earth's a sphere with a radius of 3,959 miles.
No. The claim that Earth is a sphere with a radius of 3959 miles is a measurement-based claim. The measurement of a radial value for a sphere of 3959 miles is a derivation of an angle measurement inferred at its minimum to Polaris of a flat plane. Not a claim.
That would be a circle of equal altitude.
Correct. That's the maximum circle of equal elevation for Polaris, also known as the outside edge of a sphere after conversion. You've got to measure it. They measure it off a flat Earth. It's used in the latitude system. They call it the equator, the outside edge for them. Yeah? Based on that radial value that's derived from flat Earth measurement. So it's not a claim, which is wrong. Now, don't get me wrong, we were saying it up until 2024 also. Maybe not 2024. But we were claiming they begged the question of this sphere value. No, they didn't. They got it from a flat Earth measurement.
The second claim is that the Earth is spinning, tilted, wobbling, revolving.
No, that's axial rotation, though, isn't it? Derived also from a flat plane of reference to have the axis with respect to. It's a flat plane requirement in terms of describing axial rotation. Yeah? It's a plane of reference. That's what's rotating. That's how the mathematical description utilized from angle measurements and the celestial sphere is capable of accurately describing how the sky moves for you to superimpose a extrapolation of a radial value from a flat Earth measurement also into the inference that that's an axis of rotation with respect to a plane that's also ball-shaped. Again, you're going to need a flat Earth for the axial rotation. So it's not a claim. It's based on flat Earth measurements.
Around the sun, shooting through the galaxy, that's then shooting through space. That is a positive claim. And then the third one.
That's the only bit he's got right. Space, the outer space sky vacuum bit is a positive assertion. They need to back that garbage. They can't. It's a violation of natural law.
One is that the Earth is in the vacuum of space.
Again, while we're doing this, I do kind of feel like I'm responding to a baller. Why are you summarising the globe Earth positions so you can put counterpoints in rebuttal to their positions that you're making the positive claim for? Even though you're suggesting how this claim is wrong, you're simultaneously putting the claim in the mind's eye of the audience as they hear this. And it's all heliocentric in nature with lovely graphics. Yeah? I mean, look at this. This is what Witsit's prepared for this. So it's all anti-globe. This is how the globe does not work. Like, start proving Earth's flat, people.
Heliocentric model has the burden of proof for these claims. So attempting to remove the.
Yeah, they did. They did that, have the burden of proof, and he had his time first, and he sat with his finger on his face, and I don't blame him. You know, I'd be delighted if I was Dave, actually. Shouldn't say he shouldn't look bored, other than it's a good debate tactic because he's on camera. But he's reiterating some of your positions, so you can only debate within the ideas of heliocentrism whether they are or are not correct. That's a delight. If you're the Glober, this is just where you want to be. Wonderful. I'd be delighted if I was Dave.
Burn
Actually, a
and
good move
pretend.
by Dave. It tells that Dave done his homework and knows exactly what Witsit's going to fall into, like you said, and keep reiterating his points. Well done.
As I say, from my perspective, reviewing this, and it's all heliocentric in nature, I just think we as a community, if we're going to start stereotyping, as Witsit did at the beginning of this, making every word I say justifiable. He said we, us. He's including me in this argument. Well, we need to start arguing about how Earth is flat straight off the front foot. Immediately launch into how that's how Earth is dealt with and measured. It should be the first thing out of your mouth. This stuff, this how the globe doesn't work, should be a distant memory by now. Don't need it. They'll do it for you. I absolutely assure you. And when they do, and only they, not you, bring up the globe, point out where their globe needed flat earth proof for it, like I did. Now I'm doing it for Witsit. Why am I having to point out how his anti-globe claims that put globe at the forefront of the argument in the mind's eye of the person watching need a flat earth for them? Why am I having to do that with Witsit's arguments? Where's the flat earth coming in? We're going to put a stopwatch till we hear some flat earth evidence from Witsit, because we haven't got any yet. It's just how your globe faith doesn't work and how the argument progresses with ad homs and fallacies.
That it's just automatically granted to you at the beginning is not how logic works whatsoever. And then one would say, wait, isn't saying the earth is flat a positive claim? It is, of course. And so then we would have the burden of...
That's a measurement. It's not a claim. You know, it's not a claim if you run a tape measure down something. I'm not claiming it is the number at the end of the tape measure if I can prove that that's what I've measured. Earth is measured flat. That's not a positive claim. Yeah, we're in a category error when we call it a debate. There is no debate. Both sides agree. We will start by measuring Earth flat. Now, if I'm a glober, I'll apologise and say that's only because Earth's so big that we'll measure it flat. I, as a flat earther, say we measure Earth flat. And then I don't do the extrapolation after I've measured it flat into my belief that I'll then reify and argue with you about how ball-shaped it is after I've measured it flat. I won't do all those steps. Likewise, when I look at something in the distance, I just say there's a clock. I don't say there's a slightly looming non-standard refraction holographic projection of a clock from behind the physically reified geometric sphere edge below surface level after extrapolating out a derivation of surface level and eye level called Earth curve below the surface level that I claim should be blocking this. Therefore, it's a mirage. Therefore, we don't see it. We shouldn't really see it. That's what a lot of flat earthers go through. Now leave it to them. Let them extrapolate out from their flat earth measurements. Let them take surface level or sea level or eye level and start fiddling with it and gerrymandering it into some sort of claim of a globe proof. Let them do it. And then take them back to the start of their claim where they use sea level. Take them back to the start of their claim where they use elevation angle measurements to derive some of their sphericity in the case of radial values, as is used in this case by Witsit with his anti-globe rhetoric. Start saying Earth is flat, because it is.
Of proof, and we have fulfilled that, right? Actually, this right here is a specular reflection. Any convexity or concavity of the water, if it was curving, you wouldn't be able to get a specular reflection because it...
Ding! First point. Yeah. Perfect. Flat Earth proof on screen. Top job. No criticism. Anybody who does will get a slap. Who wants to criticise this? Nobody. Top job, Witsit. Moving on.
Will cause what's called a diffused reflection. If we move on here, we have actually verified the Earth is flat many ways.
Whoa, what happened to the salt flats? There's a measured amount of relief on the salt flats. Yeah? Very, very little. Yeah, it's measured flat. Now, it's a quantifiable, demonstratable example called flat that is flat and measured as such, like everything. That one, you've got a visual representation. If it's got a bit of water on it, you get a perfect reflection of that too. But there's multitudes of examples of flat Earth evidence and measurement within the salt flats that you can show people.
Waves. Radio waves can be sent over 10,000 miles. Amateur records show that they're sent thousands of miles at all frequencies far beyond the geometric limitation of the globe.
Yeah. So it's the radio waves travel too far. Because I'm sitting here thinking, radio waves, what's he going to go with this? Okay, radio waves travel a long way. No, it's because Earth isn't getting in the way like it should. Again, this is something we dealt with a couple of years ago. We need to stop telling people how much Earth curve should be getting in the way and what shock it is that it isn't. Because all you're doing is cementing in the mind's eye of the person that there should be an obstruction blocking the radio waves. Because then the person listening goes, well, there should be something in the way. Let's find out why it isn't. Yeah? Don't need to make their claim for them.
Here we have a distant mountains observed from 167 miles away at less than 1,000 feet. So the target hidden height should be almost...
Target hidden height should be. Witsit's about to tell you how much Earth curve should or shouldn't be in the way. Yeah? Go on, Goat.
This is...
it was me.
I've just woke up. Oh, sorry, go on.
Goat then, George.
No, I was talking about the height of the mountains. How you get the height of the mountains again?
The height's off of a flat plane. It's an elevation with respect to sea level. So before you've got into quantifying how much Earth curve should or shouldn't be there, you've got to describe the heights to give that description with respect to surface level. The heights, the elevations. You've already got a flat Earth proof before you start saying how much Earth curve shouldn't have got in the way or should have got in the way, so that they can explain why it didn't. No, you need a flat Earth for this claim in the first instance. We've got heights above mountains. Well done, George. Yes, spot on. Go ahead, Goat.
This is my favourite part of the debate because Witsit is going to use the black swan argument without the black swan argument. So for whatever reason, he's got his hostilities towards QE. He's not going to use the modus tollens. He's not going to use the video from BLMSB or whoever it was. But what he is going to do to his benefit is cite a long-distance observation that was officially award-winning as the longest observation at that time. And then Dave's rebuttal is going to be, you guys lie. You guys lie about the height of the mountain. You guys lie about the height of the observer and the distances. And then I remember reading the comments, somebody saying that how can an official award-winning long-distance observation be a lie?
Or over 11,000 feet, but the mountain's only 12,000 feet. We should only be seeing roughly 1,000 feet of the mountain. Clearly, that's not the case. Here we have another one, 168 miles. Target hidden height is almost 12,000 feet, and the elevation is entirely 12,000 feet. So we should not see the entire mountain. This is a major problem because you're going to have a problem trying to invoke refraction here, and hopefully...
We should not see the mountain. What? Yeah, back to my example earlier. It's two guys. I'll expand on it. One is a flat earther and the other is a globe believer. Staunch globe believer. They look across a bay and see a clock. No. I start the example again. They see a mountain. The flat earther goes, check out that mountain. I bet that's miles away. And the globe earth believer says, no, that mountain should not be there. It's a slightly looming non-standard refraction holographic projection of the mountain from behind the reified physical geometric sphere-edge horizon we derive when we measure surface level and give a derivation when we raise in altitude at eye level. So we can infer there's a geometric blockage below the surface level that gets in the way of the mountain. Therefore, it's not there. But we can see it. Therefore, it's projected up from behind that Earth curve to give us the image that we see of a mirage. So it's not really there. It's a mirage. Because Earth curve should be in the way. Obviously, says the globe believer. The flat earther turns around and says, I just see a mountain. There it is. There's my evidence. I open my eyes and I can see it. See the difference in standard? So as a globe believer, you might have to justify why you see things that you think aren't there. As a flat earther, I don't have to do that. Witsit has taken upon himself to say this mountain shouldn't be there. Why shouldn't it? Oh, because Earth curve should be in the way. No, the Earth curve claim has been derived from flat Earth measurements of surface level and eye level. It's nonsense.
You do. This used to be the world record.
Was that somebody wanting to get a word in?
Yeah, I was saying, does Professor Dave always has that that sleeped asleep look through the whole thing? Like his whole demeanor, like he's not even paying attention to what's going on.
I mean, I have assessed his demeanour. I says he looks bored. I'd be jumping for joy. You says he's got. It sounded like you were suggesting he's got an arrogant demeanour about him, Bookfin.
Yeah, arrogant, kind of bored. I'm asleep. I'm not even listening to what's being stated.
Fine.
Longest distance line of sight. Of course, that means you're a direct line of sight to what you're observing. The world record for the longest photo. Here we have a target hidden height of 16,000 feet, and the top of the tallest mountain is 12,000 feet.
Oh, this is driving me nuts. Telling people what the target hidden height should be is to suggest that you're going to go through Earth curve mathematics and justify it. We were saying in 2016, the moment we enter into a debate that utilises the begging the question, proof of nothing, perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator, you've already lost. This is in Witsit's opener.
Which means that the mountain should have been thousands of feet below the curvature.
Should it? That would be me thinking you as a flat earther wouldn't be telling people how much Earth curve should be obstructing things.
Another one, 271 miles. Again.
These guys are so far behind us. We were doing this in 2015, weren't we? When we debated Isle of Man. Nobody is. You can remember that far back, probably. Maybe there's a few of you on the panel that were still listening to the show back then. But when we gave the title to the calculator, we were doing this. And Witsit's still doing it in 2024. Like 8 years later.
And the entire mountain should have been obstructed by over 3,000 extra feet. Here's another one, 250 miles. You get the idea. Over and over, the mountain should be obstructed, except for just roughly 800.
Height off a flat plane, distance along a flat plane. Before we get to any maths of Earth curve calculations.
Well, all of those mountains that you just described it now, they all have one thing in common: the same baseline.
Yep.
The same sea level.
Yep. Exactly. More simple than we need it to be. Just point out this height for all the mountains is off a flat plane. That's how we measure heights off sea level. That's how we do it across the entire world. That's it. Done. Don't need to tell us how we take flat Earth measurements of elevations of mountains and put them into an Earth curve calculator that derives a geometric sphere at horizon below surface level that you'll measure the difference with eye level. That's two parallel planes, surface level being one of them, that are necessitated to claim Earth curve for you to argue about how it should or shouldn't be there. It's just nuts. We've advanced beyond this.
100 feet here.
Are your team struggling to find the latest plans?
They are.
Asana, tasks and company-wide goals are in.
Here's another one, 241 miles. The entire mountain, almost the entire mountain should be hidden. And then
No, it should not. Why am I having to shout at you, Witsit, about your globe Earth claims? This is annoying. Why do people give me these videos to get me frustrated?
Goes on and on and on. Here is a very important observation everyone ducks away from. If you look in the top left here, you see you can't see the mountains. These are called Canigou Mountains. You cannot see the mountains. So when people say, can you see, will you be able to see forever if the earth was flat? That's a ridiculous straw man. Even within a globe paradigm, you'd have to admit you can't see forever because of something called attenuation. The light gets absorbed into the medium.
What? We can't see forever because of light attenuation? No, hashtag shit shrinks. Yeah, this cow is small. That cow is far away. That's not light attenuation. That's angular resolution. What's he babbling about?
You cannot see the mountains.
Why are we making this claim? Flat Earth is not proven with perspective. Yeah? They have taken the effects of perspective and called them Earth curve. So why are we discussing it? It's something they have used. Now, within that claim, they do actually have something we could use, the horizon. Now, you can use that to prove a flat Earth all day long. But you're not even on it. I just don't get why Witsit's doing this.
Until the sun gets behind it due to the intensity of the light from the sun, you now get a silhouette. And we can see the Canigou Mountains. These should have been completely obstructed. You can buy a plane ticket right now for 2 specific days of the year, and you'll know that you'll see the mountains because of a silhouette based on where the sun sets. So I guess refraction is just colluding with the calendar and with the atmosphere to make...
Who are you arguing with? Nobody suggested that. Refraction is like a second segue after the measurement of a flat Earth, the extrapolation of radius, the conversion to latitude, the stretching out over a ball, the Keplerian application of orbital motion, the derivation from Huygens of distance for light speed and AU. Then you can get to these claims about how much, in a begging the question, proof of nothing, perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator, they say the sun should be obscured by a physical geometric horizon that's in maths below a flat Earth. Why are you so far around the Reekin and now you're into refraction after those facts? My God, the rabbit hole goes deep, and it's so littered with feast of nonsense. That's what Earth curve calculations are for a flat earther. More feast of nonsense garbage. This isn't our claim. Earth is measured flat, Witsit. To describe the angular relationship between the sun and the mountains will require elevation angles. To describe the height of the mountains, to describe where it is in respect to those elevation angles, all require a plane of reference to describe everything I've just detailed. Your explanation in and of itself requires a flat Earth. You don't need to get into their calculations. They extrapolate out after those measurements, my son. It's not needed. Leave it to them. Then you won't have me shouting at you for going on and on about bloody globes. You're a flat earther, son. Man up and start talking about Earth being flat.
Make the Earth look flat over and over. Of course, it's a silhouette refraction.
Look flat? No, it doesn't even look flat in these images. Look flat. Is that the standard? This is garbage. Measured flat. It's a much higher standard. Yeah? 8 years ago I was saying it looks flat. Obviously and observably flat. Yeah, it's a pretty low standard looking back on it, Witsit. You're still there 8 years later.
Affects light, not the absence of light. Here to address his straw man about the geocentrism thing, these are projected onto a plane. These are literally azimuthal projections. So to say that it...
So what's azimuth? Yeah? Go into how these measurements are done with respect to the plane. Talk about azimuth and altitude and how it's measured. These are measurements. Oh my God, I'm going to do this till I'm blue in the face, aren't I? Who said this was good? Who needs telling off? Who said Witsit did a good job? Brian, get your ass in here.
It requires sphericity is ridiculous. Here we see that all the paths of the planets fit right within a ferrocell cell magnet torus field. Okay.
Straight into his voodoo. Right, segue from all globe Earth standards that are being debunked. Nothing to do with flat planes apart from him suggesting that it looks that way. And now we're into his voodoo nonsense about bloody dielectric incoherent acceleration. Oh my God.
Okay, what a coincidence. And to address this misnomer that sunsets are impossible on a flat Earth and they just go behind the curve of the Earth, that is also not true. Here we see the sun disappearing above the horizon with a horizontal line blocking the bottom of it far above the horizon. This is proof.
Not proof. You've got nothing to tell him how far it is. Yeah? The reason we use the black swan is because it's got demarcation for distance. Yeah? It's all well and good saying, here's 2 horizons. That's lovely. Okay, you could change the contrast level on this and show that there's really only one, obviously. Meanwhile, how far is this? If you're going to be within their paradigm of distance derived from flat Earth measurements of miles and heights derived from flat Earth measurements above sea level, and claim that the difference in a calculation called Earth curve maths that gives you height of eye parallel with surface level to infer a point below it that this sun's going to be going behind, then you need to demarcate their distances and their heights and elevations. don't you? You're in their paradigm. Why the hell you'd be in their paradigm, I don't know. There's nothing demarcating distance in this. The whole point of the Black Swan is to say the oil rigs are at 6 and 9 miles. Where's the horizon? Is it beyond them? Yep. So let's say 10 miles. It's obviously not. It's probably more like, who knows, for much, much further than 10. But it's definitely beyond 9.6 or whatever the last oil rig is. So therefore, you can start making some claims based on their assertions of physical geometric sphere edge horizons that block your distance view of the oil rigs when they're not blocked and the horizon's behind them. But you can categorically say how far that distant horizon is. This is meaningless.
Proof that the sun can disappear up above the horizon due to atmospheric conditions. Of course, we have
Atmo what now? Sphere-shaped air conditions cause that. Oh, well, thank you for answering the question you asked in regards to how much physical obstruction would be in the way and what would cause it not to be. We've got an answer from Witsit of refraction, and now we've got another answer from Witsit overcoming his own globe-Earth arguments. Does not compute. Yeah? Now we've got atmosphere. Sphere-shaped air is the solution. Oh, we're back onto a reflection. Maybe you'll get another point. Oh, didn't I already give him one?
have tons of assumptions when it comes to the military that the Earth is flat. Specular reflection, again, I'm going to kind of speed through these, but specular reflection, you see that just a small concavity or convexity in the water actually causes what's called a diffused reflection. You'll see here in the left. So you actually need a flat surface to have a specular reflection. We see these over long distances consistently.
He already covered that. Okay, it looks flat, specular reflections.
So we'll just skip over here. So, and then he, of course, the globe claims that the horizon is a physical, tangible surface.
Here we go.
And it is not. It's literally a horizon that is apparent. That's why it is where the sky appears to meet the ground.
Somebody mumbling. Go ahead. Is that someone trying to get in there? No? Thought I had someone mumbling.
So here we can get into some of the specifics here. But of course, also on a globe, the horizon should drop down and away from you as you increase altitude. What we see in reality is it rises with us, which is a major problem.
What? Rises with us? No.
Why did he go there? I thought he was going to go into some sort of black swan.
I mean, may as well lay out the argument as I've explained the oil rigs in terms of a verbal description of what visually is represented in the black swan image. But the argument that the namesake black swan is attached to is a modus tollens argument. If the Earth is a sphere with a radius of 3959 miles, then every distance to the horizon, that's Earth curve, can be measured no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, that's Earth curve maths. Distance to the horizon in the black swan image, as described with the two oil rigs, is beyond the physical limitation at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet as laid down in Earth curve maths. Therefore, the horizon is not Earth curve, and the Earth is not a sphere with a radius of 3959. That's the argument.
So, long story short, the entire globe model depends on the accuracy of the claimed radius value, and if that radius value is wrong, the entire model is wrong. So, in closing, what I'm going to say is...
No, the argument of it being a model and the argument that the model is wrong. Earlier, I pointed out that any victory that can be attained with the globe model is only attained through its capability of reverse engineering itself back onto a flat plane so that it matches and tallies with all the angle measurements we take from that flat plane. That's where the globe works. You haven't had the greatest minds put this abstract model together for it to just not work with any of the measurements we actually take on the surface. That's level, surface. All of the measurements that we take from surface level will function within the heliocentric model. Now, the out-of-the-box thinking has been applied so we have better predictive capabilities of what the stars will do. That's the purpose of the heliocentric model. Where we went wrong was about 300 years ago, where we started reifying that concept into the surface we stand on, when it can't possibly be the case if the model itself is based on accurate measurements of a flat surface. That's how it comes to fruition. The globe comes to fruition and functions by way of its use of the origin measurements that are flat.
Again, falsifications independent of replacement. The literal default position is that the Earth is a stationary plane. The globe says, well, yeah, but it's so big it looks flat, and it's so big that based on...
Yeah, there you go, Witsit. No, hang on to that thought. When they say so big it's flat, that's because they're taking measurements. The reason they have to apologise for it being so big is because they've measured it flat. Now, you've tied those two things together, like we all did for 10 years, so I'm not going to hold this against you. But that's an interesting point that he's just raised. Witsit has pointed out where our opponents tell us they measure it flat, and then apologise for how sphere-shaped it isn't. Well, we need to start recognising that they need to measure it flat and point it out immediately, not allowing them to measure it flat and then arguing within a false dichotomy where their flat Earth measurement, then turned into the sphere model, is held up like it's a globe we're standing on, and then put in false dichotomy with what they tell you your flat Earth will be. Because both are flat Earth in nature. Both, if they're working models, rely on the origin measurements off the plane, which is what we take and put into effect. So rather than going into the false dichotomy where they say, here's my flat Earth measurements I call a globe, let's argue about how your pizza pie doesn't work in a sky vacuum, point out that your version of what you think is a globe to argue for starts life with its origins in measurement, and those measurements are off a flat plane. Effectively ending the argument, effectively making anybody who's got half a brain listening realise that it isn't an argument, it's not a debate. That's a category error. We're into how we measure Earth to turn it into a sphere, and it is flat.
On the angular rate of motion, you can't tell that it's moving. Could that be true in theory? Sure, but that...
You'll need a flat Earth for that angular rate of motion with respect to an axis perpendicular to a plane of reference. That's how they describe it. I went through this earlier.
It is a concession that the default position, based on empirical evidence and observation...
It's not empirical evidence and observation, it's measurement. There's no empirical observation of something being flat when you're taking an angle with respect to it. That's a horizontal plane of reference, meaning we reference it for angle measurement. That's how Earth has been mapped and navigated. That's not empirical evidence. It's a matter of fact. It's how it is measured. Getting your standards mixed up.
Is that the Earth is a stationary topographical plane, hence why we utilize it as such for all military technology.
Correct. First thing is said on point. Yes, it's a topographical plane that we utilize. That should be the main point you labour. Ad nausea.
Etc. Therefore, to make a claim that everything is antithetical to that, you objectively and logically have the burden of proof. And then we'll get into a lot.
No, his burden of proof is overcome by that, because his burden of proof will require the topographical plane you describe to be measured and referenced to infer axial rotation perpendicular to a plane, derivation of eye level and surface level flat, to infer sphericity and obstruction-based horizons below that surface level you measured, flat. Yeah? It actually overcomes any debate or argument when you understand implicitly what you just stated. Perhaps it's a surface level understanding that Witsit has, but it's a start. It means he has a statement in his arsenal that he can appreciate overcomes the argument with him having it pointed out by me right now, rather than it being a throwaway regurgitation of something that just sounds good.
A lot of the things that he mischaracterized my arguments regarding throughout the debate, hopefully. But yep, there you go.
Okay, thank you for the opener. I want.
So he got it the wrong way around. Your closing statement about Earth being measured and utilised as a topographical reference plane should be the first thing you said. And it was the last statement rather than the first. It should have been your opener. Shame. Mostly 90% globe evidence from Witsit. The flat Earth bit was buried with observations seem to look flat. And we have specular reflections. That was his actual standard. And then at the end, he had the highest of standard and it was brushed past in an instant. So, not even a mixed bag. 90% globe evidence as far as I could tell.
Yeah, Nathan, it should have been the first thing he said and the last.
Yeah.
That's a failure on part of Flat Earth to prove that the Earth is measured flat.
He did throw it in at the end.
Yeah,
did
like
say-
you said, it should be the opener. You know, we shouldn't be talking about the globe. There is no globe. Meanwhile, there is a horizontal plane of reference that we use for everything: navigation, build on. You know, it should be talking about that. It's not.
Yeah, that's the thing that ends the argument, and it's added at the end like an afterthought.
Yeah, it would have been good if he started, like you said, and then ended with it, because it all begins and ends with flat Earth.
This shouldn't be allowed to be the format, really. QB was discussing this yesterday. It should be make a claim, offer your support, and then entice the opponent to rebut it. And then you respond to the rebuttal. That's it. That's how the debate should go. This whole spend 10 minutes going through a baseless assertion spew fest is just nonsense. I don't really get it. And all it gave Witsit the opportunity was to put his globe Earth arguments in the forefront of every person listening. Because that's, for the most part, what I got from it. That's why I got so frustrated. Why are we telling the world, as flat earthers, how the globe is supposed to have this effect not working? Just nonsense. I don't see why we should be doing that anymore. Life is more simple than that for us now. You know, Earth's measured flat. That's it. Again, I had another commenter that was saying, when you've got the feast of nonsense dribbling out of everywhere, you know, why would you want to mention Earth being measured flat? It's almost too concise. And then he added something on the end, like with a comparison. He's saying, but on the other hand, when you've got the holy hand grenade, what else would you want to use? Like, exactly. You've got the holy hand grenade, Earth is measured flat. Toss it in and watch it explode. That's what you got to do. So just before Refracted Curvature made his final appearance, he had a tete-a-tete with Danny Faulkner, and Danny Faulkner is an avid listener of the show. And with lots of protracted silences, what did he do? He steered the conversation as far away from measurement as he could possibly get it. So it's been...
Who denied measurement?
I don't want to be anywhere near it. It started off with maths is reality. You're like, no, calculations aren't reality. Extrapolations aren't reality. Maths itself is abstract. But in terms of what you can relate that abstract to in physical reality, measurement is one of the things that you can actually tie to physical reality. Now, they wanted all of their conceptual extrapolations to be the reality, not the measurements, because the measurements were flat. They would always be telling us about angles to stars back in 2015. There's a base understanding from our opponents, even at surface level of research for a globe, that Earth will be measured flat. That's why we get numpty saying, oh, it's only because it's so big. Yeah, they do, because they have done a surface level bit of research into the globe and very quickly found something like an elevation angle or an acquisition of a horizontal plane. And gone, oh, yeah, well, it says in the text that that's because just Earth's so big, so we can measure it flat on this little area and that. You know, treat it and measure it as flat and that, and establish flat with the Earth itself, and reference to it as flat. But that's only because it's a really big ball. So it's like, yeah, everybody understands with a tiny bit of research how Earth is measured flat. So let's roll with it. Everyone already understands it, don't they? And if they don't, oh, well, you just don't understand your globe rhetoric very well. You're entitled to your belief, as long as you understand at a more fundamental level where your belief has its origins in a measurement of a plane.
Unless you could tell me how you get measurements off a curved surface like a globe, which you can't.
Go ahead,
That's
Ghost.
why they have to evoke refraction, because evoking refraction is the excuse for the non-existence of globe measurements. There is no measurements for a globe. There are measurements for a flat plane.
Exactly. You're on the panel, Go. Take a leaf out of Neil's book, just interject when you feel necessary.
Well, it's very telling that Daniel Faulkner, the first thing he went to was measuring his table. So maybe he hasn't measured the Earth yet. He's still practicing with his tables.
Exactly, because
No,
he
no, no,
went,
he didn't.
he
That's
went to
not true.
describe.
No, he didn't.
He went,
No, stop. That
but
was
he went
where
to describe the different shapes.
I was going to say he didn't. He tried to use that as an example where it could be measured, but in order to ascertain that the table is oval or circular or square, he only needs to give you a quantification based on looking at it. Yeah, a qualification, rather, of what it is in shape without measurement. So that was his first attempt to deviate away from measurement. You could, but I don't need to.
Yeah, but the measurement is by implication when it says a table. Tables are flat. You don't need to measure the table. It's flat.
Sure, but the point overall, George, is that they want to skirt the topic. They want to get away from measurements because the measurements are flat and we can take them to their origins every time. And idiots like on screen now, we've got Dave McKeegan, because triangles are flat. What, the triangles we use in all of the mapping and navigating, Dave? Yeah, that's right. They are.
It's funny though when you get them back down to sea level, which I try and do quite often as the the horizontal reference frame for measurements and elevation profiles. It's so funny because at that point they've got to start saying that sea level is actually curved and level is curved, and as soon as you start doing that, you're just highlighting their desperation of the globe when they start saying sea level is curved. I mean, it's just that's something else when they start doing that. But that's all. That's where you just stay there. You can just stay at sea level. Yeah.
So I thought you were finished.
Sea level will kill them. Sorry, I'm just saying sea level will just kill them all day long. They can't handle sea level.
It's in their maths. It's labelled surface level. They think it's a tangent, but it is what we can acquire in terms of referenceable things in reality. And it's in their maths called surface level. When they say it moves around the centre of a sphere, level isn't level. No, it is. To describe a curve, you need to describe how much it deviates from level. So you can't have level be redefined as not level because you need it for your maths also. Now, at the point that you recognise that level must be level, cannot be curved when it's using triangles, which is how our mapping system is developed off a flat Earth, then you appreciate that that is how the world is mapped and navigated. Now, their only response is to say, no, well, the level that we just measured for the triangle isn't level, it's curved. No, it's not. And it's not in your maths. It's right there, parallel with eye level, not moving around a sphere, violating the principle of level to describe the curved surface from. You can't bend level, and that's their only get out when you point out our level they're measuring it. So they say, we measure it flat, but that's only because it's a really big ball, but level doesn't really mean level anyway. Level means round a ball. As soon as we finish building it all flat, it's basically comporting to the sphere that we imagine after the fact. No, it doesn't. Level means level. Just means we're measuring Earth flat. And so are you.
You need that triangle to be flat because you're going to use it for your circles of equal altitude. That's why the triangle must be flat.
But the thing is, I agree. The Witsit there, he all that garble he went on with, all you had to come on and say Earth's measured flat, and we use sea level to do that and accomplish that. Right, I'm finished, and let's see then how they respond to that. That's all you have to do.
Go ahead, Neil.
I agree with one deck. You just say that and say, I'm done. Next.
Yeah, completely agree. With that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Do we want to cover more of Witsit tomorrow? I've heard enough, I've got to be honest. It was more frustrating listening to Witsit than it was listening to Dave.
I want to know who said Witsit did good and why.
Brian. It was Brian.
Did they
Get
say
him. Get him.
Witsit did good?
Doesn't matter who said what about who.
Well, maybe they're saying he did good because I didn't hear him bring up Ether yet, but I find it impossible that he did not bring up Ether one time. I'm going to have to listen to it myself.
He did. He segued into it. He segued into it with the incoherent
Toroidal
dielectric
fields?
acceleration, didn't he? At some point, he had it up on screen, and it was there for him to segue into it.
Yeah. It's sickening because it sounds like you're thrown back to 2016. Like where it may have been acceptable back then to, make these points against the globe, but we don't need to do that now.
Yeah, he failed to read the room because the way he came across, it was like a pissing contest in a Discord server where he was on a channel full of normies, so he should have just kept it simple. He tried to deal a death for 1,000 cuts rather than one stake for the heart.
Right, and what's this light attenuation? What the hell is that?
Not a measurement.
I don't know. I would think twice about that because it seems like lately everything's a measurement.
Yeah, that's kind of the vibe we're on at the moment. But as much as I decry the commenters that's like, no, these people are promoted because they argue within the Feast of Nonsense. When you listen to something like that back, you're like, that is the state of play for us on the debate 2015 when we had a barrage of globers. They couldn't wait to get in to argue about Earth curve calculators with us. The moment we figured out how the trick worked, it's like, we're boycotting them. They mute us. No, we figured out how your argument failed and now you don't want to come anymore. But if you continually argue within those parameters, then, you'll be on the quartering arguing about them because it's all globe-centric. Witsit and Dave are both arguing about how the globe works, aren't they?
Yeah, well, that's why Timmy said, remember, Nathan, when you used to do observations, even though I don't know what he's talking about, but he wants you back there, back in 2016.
And what he's talking about is back at the Isle of Man when we were, it was Anthony Riley and Ranty Flat Earth that were out actually boots on the ground doing this stuff. I mean, I went out there for a free holiday because he's got a caravan up there, so I'm like, wicked. So went up, drove over, saw the Isle of Man from across the way as we were driving up. It was wicked. But in terms of me actually measuring anything, not really. I think I assisted in measuring the height of the slope that he was standing on when he took his images. That was about it. So that's what he's referring to. You're like, yeah, what were we doing? We were measuring heights off surface level to put them through Earth curve maths and beg the question with you. So back then, yeah, of course, they all loved it. They were all in, Timmy included, with his Tufter Trees account, because that's what we were talking about as we put all these numbers through the Earth curve maths, all these flat Earth heights above surface level through the Earth curve maths. Back when we allowed them to use flat Earth measurements to move their claim forward in a mathematical assumption that derived a curve from the difference between eye level and surface level, they liked it then. Now they don't like it anymore. So they've got to find opponents that have got a decent public persona and following that will happily argue within the parameters of the Feast of Nonsense, as we will absolutely, without question, decry that crap the moment it comes up. Who wants to debate us? Certainly not Dave. I've asked him. He said no. Yeah, I'm happy to move on with the actual debate itself when it's someone else controlling it and there's someone else pressing the play button. But we've managed to make our way to the 19-minute mark. Can you remember that, Neil?
19-minute mark.
Yeah. So when it gets to Ball Busters, all we've covered is Witsit and Dave's summary. So we've not actually covered any of the debate. Just their summary, which is good enough for me because it means we've covered all of what Dave had to say and all of what Witsit had to say in summary. Now, I would assume that the argument expands out from there, and from what everyone else has told me, that is exactly what happens. So if we've got a good handle on what's been summarised, then moving through their actual back and forth in the debate is good to have everybody around us on Ballbusters to do, and it means the audience doesn't have to suffer going through it again on Ballbusters. So if we can remember the 19-minute mark, we'll continue from here when we do cover it again on Saturday.
I got it. My favorite hockey player, Brian Trottier, number 19.
Jolly good. So we'll cover it from there. I'm sure people do want to hear what everyone else, Ballbusters-wise, has got to say on this. So fair enough, you know, we will cover more of it. It's just I don't want to cover any more of it unless, again, I get more comments in today's live stream video. No, please cover more, do more, do more.
What Nathan, you don't want to hear Dave reassert his star rotation train wreck another 15 times at least? That's what he does.
Nah, I have that era with fundies we deal with. Once we've got the summary of their claims, I'm good.
But that's what my son constantly goes back to too. I told you that before. With this opposite star rotation, he calls it 2 points in the sky, where there's two different skies, and it could only be a sphere that could provide two different skies, like we observe. I never observed it.
I got Bosch up another thumbnail that's almost the same as yesterday's. So tomorrow we'll cover, is it Dave Weiss? Dave Weiss and Dave Creamer Wheat.
Hey, Farina, cream of wheat Farina. So you really didn't know of anything called cream of wheat, Nathan? Didn't have that back in the UK?
Not with that brand name, no. And not that I'm aware of.
Yeah, there was cream of wheat and cream of rice.
Fair enough.
I think it's instant grits, to be honest.
I think it's what?
I think it's sort of like grits, instant grits.
Does it repeat on you?
No self-respecting Southerner uses instant grits.
You guys say that like, oh no, that Joe Pesci used that. That's my cousin Vinny, yeah. Were they instant grits?
Do the laws of physics cease to exist on Dave Farina's stove?
Was they the same? How does he say it with Jack and the Beanstalk? I forgot. I lost that. I haven't seen that video in movie in years.
Were these magic grits? Did you get these grits
yeah.
from the same guy that Jack got his beanstalk beans?
Yeah, that's it.
I have no idea what you're on about, but it's hilarious.
My cousin Vinny, when Joe Pesci's the lawyer.
I killed the clerk. I killed the clerk.
Can I? What was Ranty's reason?
Sorry, go on.
I just wanted to ask him, what was Ranty's reason for going back to the ball?
I don't know.
I never.
Anybody know? Nah, sorry, nobody cared enough.
Earth curve at the horizon.
Sorry?
Earth curve at the horizon.
No, really?
Aye.
Yeah, fair enough.
I mean, back then we didn't know that belief was derived from flat Earth measurements. So, but now it's just a person we used to know, right? Nobody cares.
Yeah, but still, back then, I don't know. I wouldn't have seen a good reason.
I think the real reason was it's a lot more profitable to be an anti-flat earther than it is to be a flat earther. The algorithm was favouring anti-flat earth, and he had quite a few people from the anti-flat earth side goading him into joining us.
Yeah, that makes
Join
more
us.
sense. I think
Join
it was
us.
around when he was doing that round table thing, wasn't it? I remember that.
Well, he ended up joining forces with conspiracy cats to make a video about ghosts and goblins and Bigfoot and things like that. You know, the people that oppose us are often guilty of projecting their own retarded conspiratorial nature onto us. You know, just the name itself, conspiracy cats. It's like, doesn't that tell you what type of person he is? They want the conspiracy, they just don't want the flat earth bit. They found their way here the same way we did, in other words. They just go a slightly different path into anti-flat earthism rather than flat earthism. You know, to the point where they'll deny their own rhetoric. Or in the case of conspiracy cats, I'll give you a flat earth.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, because he had to. He had no choice. Couldn't do it on his sphere Earth, could he? He had to do it on our flat Earth. Well done.
Yeah, they need a flat earth more than we do, and that was probably the first example of it, right? Conspiracy cats.
Yeah, I think that was, because I remember the conversation. He was asking you, do you know why he said, I'll give you a flat Earth? And I couldn't get to the mute button because I wanted to say, because he had to. Because it clicked. That's when it clicked with me.
Yeah. He disappeared shortly after that.
Yeah, he went to chase ghosts and goblins, right?
Yeah. Basically.
But then about
I say
18
that
months
was-
ago, sorry, yeah, about 18 months ago, he was on a debate, on modern day debates, alongside Planner Walk. So he hadn't disappeared completely.
Sounds like a beautiful coupling.
Hey, Nathan.
Yes.
Nathan.
Yes.
Hey. So I wanted to just put in the airway because I hadn't heard it. An argument for the center of Earth claim, or a question that would be reasonable to ask, in my opinion, is orientation of the reference, right? The vertical up beyond the equator, if the center of Earth measurement were to be taken serious, right? That plane that they claim, they're showing it as rigid, right? Not, moving based on your position, right? It would be the equatorial plane and at the equator through the Earth, not moving, right? So everything, the vertical up would have to invert beyond the equator in that case, because things that were above you would be below you beyond, because the equatorial plane for them would have to be rigid.
I would say yes, but I had this conversation yesterday with Brian, and he said no. So he suggested, this is Brian, so excuse me if I sound a bit vague, that it could be plotted from anywhere. That is to say that if you took your zenith position at what you described, let's just say the equator, because so did Brian, it's like you can draw out your own personal dome, i.e. protractor around you, and point out all the stars and track them from there if you choose to. Obviously, you're not going to have a Polaris above your head, but that's true for anywhere. So his criticism of me was taking the idea that I tend to infer, which is the celestial sphere. But the celestial sphere is the combination of two models, antipodally sandwiched one above the other. So when you say, well, when you reach a point at the equator, because you have a minimum elevation angle to Polaris, does that mean that you then flip to the other antipodal positioning system? Well, yes and no. in reality, no, you're just moving 1 inch beyond the equator. Everything's still above your head. You're still measuring with respect to a plane. Nothing actually changes at all. But in terms of the two different star charts that you'd be given, then yeah, you've got a north one and a south one, and there is some overlap. So, yes and no. But I wouldn't probably be the best person to answer this because, as I say, my introduction of the celestial sphere not only takes the flat Earth elevation angle measurement to Polaris north-centric and the inferred south-centric system, sandwich one on top of the other antipodal, two flat planes on top of each other to give you that celestial sphere. Those are assumptions that I don't need to give to my opponent, but for the fact that people will recognise through familiarity the words celestial sphere. But other than that, I don't actually need to give them that. But it was Brian that pointed that out, so maybe this is a conversation for him more than me.
Well, it's just the consequence of either a rigid or infinite plane. And the infinite plane for me that's such an absurdity that I can't. It's just too absurd. Right? You need
it is and it isn't. So if you take the latitude grid, when you draw out the plane, as in the equatorial plane, the way it's described is infinitely extending outwards. Yeah, that's just the description, though. There is no such thing as infinite. It's a concept. But
well, no, I'm not saying extending out infinitely as a plane. I'm saying it would be your flat plane would be different from measurement origin to measurement the ground position, right? So each time, each position, you would have to have a flat plane under you, right? So every step you took would be a new plane of reference. That's what I meant. And it would be going in 3 directions, right? Because let's say you measure Polaris and then 2 other stars. As you walked along each line, the plane would have to change each step because it would be infinitely oscillate. And for me, that's just absurd. That's what I meant by infinite plane. Because you would have to have a flat plane under you at each location of measurement. You'd have 4, let's say, if you took 3 measurements.
No,
you'd
you
have
just have
the
one.
ground,
You have one. They're all the same.
That's what I mean. That then the plane is rigid, and when you got the vertical up would have to flip. You'd have to have negative stars.
No.
In that case,
I just went through this with you, Lumpy. That's only the case if you take two measurements, one south-centric, the other north-centric, and then model them antipodal in the celestial sphere. But to assert that the plane cannot be as such because the rigid, infinitely expanding plane that is the celestial sphere in a model with 2 infinitely extending flat planes modelled antipodally doesn't mean that what we won't have is an infinitely extending plane in terms of the description and modelling and measurement. That is what we have.
I think we're not agreeing on what I. Well, let's forget about the word infinite. What I meant by that is that if you put a piece of plywood on a basketball and you roll it around, that flat surface, let's just call it flat, of the plywood would be only touching one point. And if you had a rigid plane or flat base on that ball, right? As you rolled the ball, you'd have to change declination of that plywood. Does that make sense? What I meant by
why would we be rolling plywood around on a ball so we can
just to have a position where the plane is.
The plane is the wood,
just so you
not
have
the ball, right?
Yeah, that's the flat plane.
Why do we need the
wood.
ball?
Well, just to point out that rigid that flat plane is only contacting one tangent point.
Why?
Why? Why would we need to point that out?
Because we got to have a reference to measure these angles, and now the argument from people claiming center of Earth has a consequence of either a rigid plane or a plane that moves every time you step away from the original place you were standing. And if you took 3 elevation angle measurements, you'd have 4 locations on Earth to consider. Now, either the plane is rigid and holds right on the equator if you were on a sphere. Now, I'm not arguing for a sphere. I'm just saying there's a geometric consequence. No, I'm not. There's a geometric consequence of having a plane of reference at the equator, and that would be the vertical up would flip beyond the equator. You would be looking down to look up at that point, because you would if I was above the equator, this is so it's hard to do, but I'm looking up at the stars. But beyond the equator, that up would have to flip, because you would have an orientation to the reference polar opposite of above the equator. You'd have to.
No, you don't.
I still don't know why you're doing it.
The equatorial plane
Because
extends out infinitely
to kill
if you're dealing with the
measurement.
Oh, you won't finish. My bad.
I was trying to answer Neil. To kill the measurement from the center of Earth argument. It's absurd on its face, but you could model this on 3D modeling and show where either the stars are under the horizon at some point, and at that point, the plane of reference would have the consequence of living, if it was a sphere and measuring angles, below zero has to be negative.
Sure, but that is what they infer on the globe, number one. Number two, when you're dealing with the celestial sphere, you're only actually, as Brian pointed out to me, ever dealing with one or the other. And when you're dealing with one dome, one hemisphere of view that you've plotted out with your angles to the stars with respect to a horizontal plane of reference that is described in this as the equatorial plane, that expands out infinitely for that description.
Sure, you're saying on a X and Y plane, right?
Yeah, but that extends beyond the equator. Just because you can arbitrarily define the point that you lose view of Polaris, call it the equator, and then after you've modelled the north-centric system, model a south-centric system with a separate star chart and sandwich the two together, doesn't mean that in their model, when it's being used at the centre of globe Earth, that you have to actually flip antipodal when you get to the equator. It's still for them and us,
you do.
And it still extends
for them,
out
I
beyond
say they
the.
do.
It still extends
Nathan?
out beyond the. For the fourth time. It still extends out beyond the equator in their equatorial plane with a globe Earth in it, infinitely. So they can have it described as a tiny little blue marble dot in the middle of this massively extending out infinite plane.
It's not that I'm confused. I'm trying to understand how you're not, like, if you're standing at the equator and, oh God, I don't understand how it can be even difficult, because like the upper hemisphere and the lower hemisphere would have two different vertical ups.
Yeah,
right?
antipodal.
They would have to.
Yeah, only in the model.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah, only in the celestial
Oh,
sphere model.
never
And
mind.
I've just covered this. When you deal with it, you only deal with one at a time, and you're only dealing with one hemisphere of view, Polaris-centric or South Pole-centric. But when you do deal with one, the plane that extends out, goes beyond the equator, is flat for an infinite, infinite, in the model. It's not relevant in terms of the antipodal positioning for the celestial sphere when you actually plot out positions with the hemispherical view of a parallel plane and sky in that model. That's why when it's depicted, I've just covered this 2 minutes ago, they'll show a sphere Earth in the middle and a massive, huge, extended plane. Yeah?
How do they make a plane when there's supposed to be lights in the sky during the day under us or whatever?
They don't. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah, but it don't work that way. But the geometry, the consequence of it. Oh, never mind. Let's just drop it. I just thought it was a really simple way to put to rest. I mean, the
It would
charts are
be.
one
Okay,
thing.
let
but
me acknowledge what you're saying. It would be if from the centre of hell out to the equator meant that when you got to that point in that description from centre of hell to outside edge of sphere, which is completely surplus to requirements in this description on an equatorial plane, because that isn't the limit. The limit of Polaris isn't the limit of the plane in their model with a sphere in it. So that's a massive plane, sphere in the middle. You're going to move from a polarcentric system at the centre of hell along the plane. When you get to the equator, in all depictions I've ever seen of it, that is not the limitation. It still extends out further. Because if you're using it at the equatorial plane, there's a good chance that there's a star that you can see, that you can measure, that is above the equator and will form one of the areas of equal elevation that may massively overlap the circle, that is, that you draw based on its GP, beyond where you suggest it should be antipodally flipping. It won't be. It'll be depicted on the equatorial plane on a flat surface extending out so that that circle with a light above the equator can still exist on top of a plane as a flat circle. That's why it's an extended plane beyond the equator. There is no flipping antipodally beyond the celestial sphere description.
Well, then, just for me, like on the ball, the sunrise and the sunset would be because half the Earth is lit up, right? So, like,
no,
I just can't do it. I figured it was a really simple thing, and I mean, somehow charts got involved. It's just the geometric consequence of being on the other half of a thing that the lights are being cut off because, you know, it's the edge of a ball and you can't see through the ball, and that would be why, like, you know, beyond the equator as you go south on the ball, it's because the ball's in the way of the lights, and that's why it as long as you had a rigid plane at the equator, even if it on the charts or you could see, you know, Polaris, which is kind of hard for the ball anyway because it's supposed to be blocking half the stuff, right? Because it's anyway, who cares? But I just figured it was a really simple way to say nuh-uh, because look, you could put a plane at the middle. I've seen you have memes with it, with the plane there. I've seen memes you have with it. I guess I'd have to be able to plot on the meme maybe, but you have stated it like if you were to extend out that plane beyond the equator and you're standing at the equator.
It's not if.
And
it's not an if.
Well,
they do.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah, it is. Sure.
So why are you putting it into an if statement? If you extend the
equatorial
plane,
that's what you
it is
said.
an extended plane. That's what it is.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but your example was if I was standing at anyway.
Your example was when we get to no.
Me,
your example was when we get to the equator. There's a problem because you have to flip. No, we don't. It's an extended equatorial plane. The problem for them is that in this description, Lumpy, the globe bit is entirely surplus to requirements. It has no use at all.
Oh yeah.
Right,
sure.
that's the problem.
Useless, totally.
Not that when we get to the equator we have to infer that the celestial sphere models when sandwiched antipodally means that we have to have an antipodal view of the stars beneath the 0 point. That was your position. No.
Yep.
Even when they use it, they put you in hell, making the ball bit, the globe bit, not even redundant, surplus to requirements. It's not being used anymore. So the point of the equator on the ball is irrelevant at that point.
Yeah. I mean, it's nonsense in all conceivable ways of thinking about it. Yeah, it's nonsense. They're not at the center of the Earth. And, they're using the Earth to be able to get a plane. It's so dumb. It's like, but yeah. Anyway, I just figured that was a simple way to rebut it in the mind of the audience, and I figured anyway. I don't know. Maybe I'm bad at communicating. Anyway, sorry to bug the show.
Well,
sorry, my phone's...
Go ahead.
Then I've never seen it, right, depicted in that way, but thinking about it while you guys are talking, if somebody is, navigating on the equator, right, so they have to, obviously, to get the angles, bring it down to the center. So what do they use for their baseline then?
Same baseline. It's always the same. There's only one horizontal plane of reference. It's Earth and its surface that's being referenced as a horizontal plane, regardless. You can be on the equator and do it, or be at the North Pole and do it, or be at the South Pole and do it. They're all the same plane.
Yeah, they're cutting the Earth in half, though, when they're taking it from the equatorial plane. 10th man laid it out for us. What they do is cut the Earth in half, and that's your flat plane now. And that's where they get all their measurements from.
It's worse than that. Hello, everyone. What they do, hey Nathan, hey everybody. What they do is they place you at the equatorial plane. This is very specific, at vernal equinox. And that mathematically removes their 23.4 degree tilt. It's then pre-assumed that the equatorial plane extends out into the celestial plane, giving you a much huger plane. And listen to this. And that this plane is stationary and the celestials are moving. This is how it's dealt with in astronomy and celestial navigation if they're addressing a globe. So when it comes to addressing a globe, they're using a monstrous flat plane, a monstrous stationary flat plane with celestials that are moving around it. That's what they do.
Yep. Couldn't have said it better myself. Precisely.
I real quick, Brian, you're right, but that isn't that's not the real world consequence of what they're saying. And if you don't understand it, that's fine. But I'm just saying it for anybody able to hear that they're not considering that plane is a plane because they extend it beyond what the plane could be if there was a hemisphere considered in origin in Genesis, like because there's the antipode of that hemisphere, and the vertical up has to flip.
Yeah, I get that.
Absolutely has to.
Yeah.
And they extend it out and debunk their own model.
Lumpy, you're saying as a consequence of being on a ball, the stars would have to go beneath what we call the plane of reference that is Earth. If the ground is curving, then stars are underneath you. That's what you're saying. That's the natural consequence. But they already accept
and they're denying it.
But they already accept antipodal positioning, carte blanche, without even knowing that phrase. If I said to your average Joe Normie that you accept antipodal positioning, it'd be like, what? And I went, that's like you're putting to us, Lumpy. That's the natural consequences of your belief. It'd be like, what do you mean? I'd be like, well, on your ball, you think the star's underneath you. And do you know what it'd say? Yeah. That's what they'd say.
Yeah.
So what?
Yeah, but Lumpy, what you have to understand that what they nobody can measure more than 180 degrees. When you're out to sea, nobody or anywhere.
Oh, I know.
Can't measure more than 180 degrees. So what they must do is use a monstrous flat stationary monstrous flat stationary plane, and then back calculate these positions onto the surface of their globe. By placing their globe between that plane and the celestial dome.
Yeah, so the globe becomes in that once you've got that description that Brian's got to, the globe becomes a glorified protractor because you're standing on the flat plane, and if it's polarocentric, you're at the center of hell with the globe wrapped around you, and then the celestial hemisphere wrapped around that because you've got measurements through what is then the globe. But then all the globe then represents is a protractor you're holding. That's all it then does functionally because you're inside it, you're not on it. So it's basically surplus to requirements because the whole point of the hemisphere with the plotted points of the angles of the stars is the angular representation. So you can't even call it a redundant or, redundant protractor because it doesn't serve as that if you're inside it. The lights on the dome plotted out in that model represent the angles to those lights. So the globe bit is literally useless at this point, isn't it, Brian? It serves absolutely no function.
Exactly. The only function it serves is as a waypoint between the point on the celestial sphere and the flat plane.
To plot
so
it.
They can, to plot a coordinate on their globe surface in between the celestial dome and the flat plane orthographically.
Yeah, that's when you end up with PZX triangles and curve angles and exactly.
But even when they try and say that the elevation angle is not a right angle triangle, they don't realize that within what celestial navigation do when they're trying to address the globe, that they're using right angle triangles. That's why they extend out the celestial plane. That's an extension of the baseline of the right angle triangle. that then is used. So if I take a dome and I place it on a bigger flat plane, and I take an angle line, a hypotenuse through that dome to a point in the sky, and from that point bring a straight line down to meet the flat plane I'm standing on, the point at which that intersects the dome, if that dome is assumed to have a radius of 3959 miles, then that's the point on the surface of their globe that they'll claim they've just measured to. That's all they do.
Yeah, I've got the diagram up on screen now. So you've got your PZX triangle from the centre of hell with GP positions plotted out. So star is marked at X, and then the yellow line represents your angle measurement through the sphere that I'm saying is surplus to requirements, to represent, as Brian says, a projected point based on the angle measurement through the globe. So that's its only real utilisable purpose, to claim that the point you're measuring from the hell point in the centre of the globe is actually the projected point on this PZX triangle.
Exactly. Its purpose is purely belief-based, to keep a belief alive. That's its only purpose, if you think about it.
Right, because the angle, the acquisition thereof and the utilisation thereafter, has no purpose in the globe. It only has a purpose to delude you in projecting these positions through the globe and then suggesting that you're standing on it. Because the actual functional requirement of the angle to the star has been fulfilled already. There's nothing else needs doing, like Brian says. So why are we doing it? Well, just to make your belief work. That's the only purpose, because it doesn't have any functional purpose. We've already got the angle. We don't need anything else. Where do we get it? Well, not from the centre of hell, I assure you.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're hitting.
Go on, Malopi.
But it debunks it for me, for how I see it, and I don't know if you agree, Brian, but for me it debunks their globe while trying to maintain that belief. For me, how I see what they're explaining is,
every time you have to address reality, there's something there that completely debunks our globe. Because every time they have to address reality, the globe is secondary. The globe is always an afterthought of calculation after measurements have been taken, no matter what the process is.
Yeah. And I say surplus to requirements because if you're extrapolating out something after you've taken the useful aspects of the measurement from a flat plane, then it doesn't serve any useful purpose. It's just there to prop up your belief. It's secondary. It's not the primary purpose of taking an angle from a flat plane in measurement function. It's not the purpose of plotting that out on a flat plane with circles of equal elevation. To say, well, I'll plot in a globe at radial value 3959 between the angle measurement and the angle representation on a hemispherical sky view after measuring it parallel with the ground, I can say that by reification, those extra added steps that aren't going to be used in the actual navigation create a positional system that you can believe you're standing on. You're like, why would I do any of that? Well, because on page 87 it says that we can do that. Here's how we do it. Here's the conversion process once you've measured Earth flat. Oh, well, that means we stand on a globe then. Let's get on with our day on the surface of that globe that is completely surplus to any requirements that are functional in nature with respect to the ground we're standing on. They don't have any use. All of the systems that are on the globe to make them plottable have been derived from the angle measurements to the polaricentric system in the first instance. So it requires a flat Earth in all regards, and the only bit that's globe-shaped is the belief that comes afterwards. It's sad that we are in the position to actually reify it from birth, of our own volition. It's mad that they've got us here in 300 years.
And people like Harold Jacobi wrote whole books on how to do this. That's all. If you look at any of Harold Jacobi's stuff, it's purely based around, we do all these measurements on this monstrous flat plane, stationary plane, and then we convert them all to a globe. It's a globe. That's basically all that's the whole purpose of Harold Jacobi's work, as far as I could see.
Well, no, his navigation books, in the first instance, on the first, from what 10th showed us, the first 2/3 of the books just describe how it's done without any reference to a globe. And then I keep saying on page 87, that's when Harold Jacobi starts making his inferences for globe conversion. So the majority of his books are actually just straight up navigation details. A lot of the diagrams we use in these slideshows are from Harold Jacobi's book, you know.
I mean, and that's like Harold Jacobi has to address the flat plane we live on, the flat stationary plane we live on. There's no doubt about that. But I'm saying his whole purpose of his book is to teach people how to go from that flat plane to a spherical belief, and then place all the coordinates on the surface of the spherical belief. Then ask a flat earther, how do you get a fix on your flat Earth?
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what they do, you know.
Yeah. But intrinsically, to understand how to do that trick, like McToon has used, maybe he's done it inadvertently without actually appreciating the quality of the magic trick he utilised with his $10,000 challenge, because that $10,000 challenge does exactly that. Takes angle measurements from a flat plane and asks a person, how do you get your fix? Well, in understanding how the trick works, you must appreciate how, in Harold Jacobi's case, you reference Earth flat to plot it onto a globe.
Everybody doesn't know that?
If you do a bit of research, you do. That's my point. That's where it's a linchpin argument, Brian. But Neil, but go ahead, Brian.
I'm just saying, all the ballers, every time they want to reference Anton or give a citation, it's always Harold Jacobi they use. Always. And I remember specifically McToon referencing him pretty often, if I remember correctly. And Ruhif, why did they all go to Jacobi? Because he gives them their globe, you know, halfway through the book or whatever. And this is why they all go straight to Jacobi. He'll save us. That's what it is. And that's why I think Jacobi himself is a bit of a fraud. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he just was, that's what you do. But something tells me someone who was navigating all that time I just can't see that person with that kind of level of knowledge going, it's definitely a globe after I measure all these flat surfaces. I just doesn't make any sense to me.
The way you explained it, Brian, it sounds like he's making concessions.
Yeah, and I'm trying to point out that the road to understanding that requires you also understand the flat earth that is necessary to get there.
Exactly. If I ask McToon for his challenge, just to say McToon's chat me or anyone, will you be using the vernal equinox? If he says yes, that's the end of his challenge, basically. Because at that point, it's an admission that they're going to be using a monstrous flat stationary plane with moving celestials. I remember Kent highlighting this several times. And I remember, I have to be honest, when he was saying it to me, I was so focused on the angles and the dip and all that, I wasn't paying enough attention to what he was saying. They pre-assumed that the Earth is stationary and the sky is moving. And when he brought it to me in astronomy, that they do the same thing with something I'd covered in the past, which was the EQ Mount telescopes, that they, in astronomy, they do the exact same thing. Vernal equinox, massive stationary plane with a moving sky. It's like, that gave it, a light went off my head. I said, Jay, why weren't you listening? I wasn't paying attention to the sky moving part. I was only interested in the angles and the dip and all this. It's like, no, the sky is moving. That means you're stationary. That means they have to use reality. They're hijacking reality again. And then trying to convert it back to, but place a globe then in the way of you and getting to your destination and tell you you live on the globe. That's basically what they're doing. It's like a diversion route. You're going from A to B, and you have this little diversion they send you off on, and you end up in a town you didn't intend to end up in.
Right. This is the nitty-gritty of the debate, though, isn't it? How we prove that the debate isn't really a debate. We're all using flat Earth measurements.
Exactly. And would you believe, and I kick myself, right, that when I was addressing years ago the EQ Mount telescope, at the same time as I was addressing Kepler, right, I wasn't focusing, with Kepler, I was focusing on the fact that he had to address the sun we see in reality and address reality, which is a flat stationary plane, and use angles to the sun, right? But when it came to the EQ Mount telescope, I was focused on the fact that it was debunking that we were rotating because it requires a stationary plane. I wasn't focusing on the fact that that was also using angles. And it's like, what? It's so stupid.
That's a
Years
classic
later.
case. Well, this is. I'm glad you're having this humility because it's a classic case of not seeing the wood for the trees, isn't it? But we're trying to point out that to the audience, but say, well, our opponents do this too. Because we're all doing it, they're using flat Earth measurements and then moving on to put it into false dichotomy. And we're saying we also use flat Earth measurements to tell them how their globe doesn't work once they've used them and put it into effect with a globe model. It's like we need to start again, take a step back, and go, so we're all going to start with flat Earth measurements. That's the beginning and end of everybody's argument then, isn't it? But we never spotted it 10 years ago, and it's nice hearing you say it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm prone to that too, you know, prone to not seeing the wood for the trees kind of thing. You know, I was addressing both things at the same time, Kepler and the EQ mount, and I didn't put the two of them together. I couldn't have done that, I don't know, but it was years ago, so I forgive myself for that. But it happens, doesn't it?
Listen, we followed a progression, Brian, but we got there.
Yeah, it was difficult years ago because there was a lot of sidebar distractions. You know, the arguments that were coming out, and the ballers were far more confident at the time. Not that it bothered me, because I knew, I accepted it was flat and stationary when I first got into this. So after that, it didn't really matter to me what the ballers' attitude were, but it will be, because of other topics and other things, you will be sidetracked and miss the obvious things. I mean, it's like, boy, did I not see that at the time? Or, you know, it happens. Well, what they do, as an analogy, if you imagine getting in your car, you fuel it up, you have all your luggage, you're going from point A to point B, and you're 3/4 the way to point B, and there's a road diversion, and they send you off to some other place that's somewhat similar to where you were looking to go, but it's weirder, and you don't get to go to where you wanted to go. That's basically what they do. With every type of navigation or every type of anything, they just put this globe in your way after you've used reality, and then tell you that's what's going on. And people just go, okay then. And no one ever makes it to point B because they got the diversion to B1 or whatever.
I kind of followed that analogy, but kind of didn't.
Yeah, probably wasn't very good.
I thought it was going to be more profound than that you just went to someplace weirder. I was getting ready for some profound shit right there, but then you lost me.
That's right.
Are you ready to get roasted today?
I was going to say the same thing. Are you excited about your roast?
Yes.
Me too.
But it's like bringing the pigeons to the cat.
That's going to be good.
What that he means by that is he's going to start roasting back.
Yep.
That's what he means. He said it
Yeah, that's
yesterday
part of
again.
fun.
But that's what a roast is.
It should be good. Did you hear me do a proper plug for it right at the end of the show?
No, I did not.
After the credits roll, I did a plug.
Oh, thank you very much. Where's Adam been? I see his icon in here. I never hear him anymore. What's happening with Adam?
Sick people all the time, non-stop. I've literally just sat down with coffee. So
you've been really busy the past few weeks, man.
I'm going to be busy for a while. I think it's all the doctor's appointments are being channeled this way. So, like yesterday, I did like 12 appointments that GPs would have had otherwise. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Well, what's going on, Adam? Because I'm trying to get, even over here, I have to get an appointment for my son for his lawsuit, and they're telling me I can't get an appointment for at least a month and a half. It's insanity. What, is everybody sick?
Yes.
It's not, you're all sick. It's not
It's
so much about,
absolutely nothing to do with immigration.
oh, it's got loads to do with immigration.
That's a good. Who is that? Who said that?
Sensual Goat. Hello, sir.
Sensual Goat. He's on the panel.
Oh, I like where your mind's at. That was a real. You're part of the group now.
Yeah, I'm grateful to be here.
Seems like you got the right attitude.
After your years of training, hammering it into me, yeah.
It's a mark against you, kissing ass.
Queen's okay with it though.
It's supposed to be warming up for a roast.
He's going to roast people back though. That's what he's not going to just take it and go laugh along with it. That's not what's going to happen. Someone's going to get told, "See your sister about that."
Is this why? We said it too much. She just doth protest too much, Brian. So you're a bit worried that we're going to roast you? Is that why all of this protestation?
No, not even remotely.
No. That was a bit high pitched.
You're measuring
any way you
pitch.
like, buddy.
He's measuring your pitch.
Pay close attention to pitch, absolutely.
So did you do? I think you already did. I've seen just a smidgen of it. You kept on reviewing the Cream of Wheat and Boy Zero.
Yes,
I can answer the question for you. We're picking it up on Ball Busters at the 19-minute mark.
No, we're picking it up at the start.
No.
Don't be. No,
just
the
hear me out,
start.
Brian. We've already had consideration for you and your miserable nature. So what we're going to do is we've only covered their preliminary summary of what they will be covering. So it's like we've heard a 5-minute, the bit that QE hates when he's like, oh, they think over on modern day debates that we have a endless string of baseless assertions, right? Well, we've got through that on Flat Earth Debate, and it ends after Witsit's string of baseless assertions about the globe, about the 19-minute mark. So from this point on, it's going to be the more fun bit of the actual back and forth rather than the long string of baseless assertions. Make sense?
Is that where you want to start it?
If Brian, who's seemingly become the arbiter of these things, is willing and accepts this, is that okay with you, Brian?
I don't accept this. No, we should do the whole lot. No half measures. You're either doing it right or you're not doing it at all. That's my attitude.
Yeah, but Brian, the whole point leading up to the 19-minute mark is painful. You want to listen to that again?
I want to review it and I want to respond to it, Neil. That's the whole point of it. It's all
Yeah, but it's Dave waffling on for about what, 8 minutes? Is it an 8-minute intro? It seems like it's an 8-minute intro.
Look, I'll do whatever you want to do, but I'm not one of these guys
Excellent.
who just
You heard him say it.
paints one wall and said, do it.
We'll be doing it right, Brian. We'll be getting into it from the juicy bit, I promise. They're not going to miss out on anything for having not listened to their summary. When I asked the panel who have watched it if that was the right thing to do, and they're like, what, you didn't want to hear him go through the same thing 16 times? In other words, we're at the point where the start of the going through it 16 times again and again and again begins. So do you want to hear the summary again, so then we can then get into the hearing it again and again and again 16 times? I'm pretty sure we're good with having done the summaries already. We'll get into it from the 19-minute mark. It'll be great. We're not doing a good job, because I'm sure you're deeply really concerned about how well we cover this. Our journalistic integrity is of the utmost importance to Brian all of a sudden.
Opposite star rotation. Let's talk about that for 25 minutes.
As I said, I'll do whatever you do. I have no choice in the matter, do I? I have to just go along with it.
Well, I'll tell you what, Witsit better start shining soon.
Why?
I heard he did a great job. He better start shining real soon.
Oh, right. Yeah, Brian. He hasn't done a good job so far. All he did was put the opposing globe arguments, like we should have curve in the way.
Yeah, well, that's not my fault. So.
No, I'm holding you personally responsible. You said he did a good job.
Well, I'm talking about what I heard of him when he was interacting with Dave. He did a good job of not allowing Dave to do what he normally likes to do, which is cause people anger and different things like that. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he didn't do a good job. As I said yesterday, I don't know if you heard me say this, but I didn't remember what Witsit was saying simply because I was responding to Dave while I was driving my car.
Fair enough.
Audibly.
No, you did say that. I remember you saying that.
Yeah.
You were like not paying close attention to how Witsit did, but you were more responding in your own mind to what David just said as you were listening along. Gotcha. Fair enough.
Well, Witsit's demeanour was pretty confident and relaxed. So that and at the end, so that told me that he did pretty well. But as far as dealing with Dave as the individual who is Dave Farina, he did pretty well. That's all I could say.
Okay, so he did well in his argumentation for how Earth isn't a sphere, and he did well dealing with Dave. Gotcha. Not being triggered by him, that is.
How about dealing with the flat Earth? You know, the whole point, not the way his hair was parted, not his demeanor. What did he do substantively to represent, because he's the flat Earth representative, what did he do to represent the flat Earth? That's what I mean. I can give a shit.
Said Earth appears, and let me tell you, he said, so far in his summary, if you take out all the Earth is not a sphere because arguments that he was ready to present, his arguments consisted of Earth appears to be flat when you look at it. It's the default position, specular reflections, and we reference a topographical plane. That was the last point he made. There you go. There's 4 in his summary.
Oh, specular reflections is a good point. I mean, I've used that for years.
Absolutely. Gave it to him. I was like, wicked. He got a mark. He got a point. He didn't get it twice. He used it twice. I didn't give him 2 points.
Don't forget light attenuation.
Yeah, the reason hashtag shit shrinks is because of light attenuation, according to Witsit. I kid you not.
Oh, brother.
Well, what I do remember from it is him bringing up the mountain. Right.
Well, wait a second, Brian. How can light attenuate if it's already there?
It's only there because it got excited. Don't forget that.
Follow?
Excitation.
How can it attenuate if light's already there? Any answers to that? I'd like to hear that.
I don't know what attenuation is, so I can't make any judgment on it. Could someone enlighten me?
No pun intended.
Enlighten you. Boom, boom.
I wasn't intending anything there. That was purely accidental.
Turn down.
10th man will be proud of you.
Attenuation would be to turn it down.
All right, so the dimming of the light.
Yeah, if you like.
Right,
That's
with this
Why is
kind of thing.
Why? Because of distance. Why is it dimming? It's already there. It doesn't travel. Clown. You're a clown. Not you, Brian. You know who.
Well, I was a bit of a clown a minute ago, but
I always thought it was his perspective.
You what, Neil? No, hashtag.
I said I always thought it was perspective, not
No.
light attenuation.
Hashtag light attenuates. But yeah, there you go. That he did have some. At least he had some evidence in there for a flat Earth, loose though it was. The majority of his focus was how Dave will argue and how Earth is not a sphere. Sort of anti-globe arguments for the most part.
Well, one thing I do remember from the debate, and he brought it up, I think, twice, but he was very specific when he first brought it up, was the Mount Canago thing, where twice a year, because of the position of the sun in the evening time, it is right behind Mount Canago, and it's highlighting the silhouette of Mount Canago at the exact same times twice a year. And it's when the point is that Mount Canago is pre-assumed to be gone over the curve of a globe Earth. But at these exact times, twice a year, Mount Canago is shown to be there. Kind of like with Mount San Jacinto from Malibu, when with the infrared camera that Jay Tolan showed years ago, it was pre-assumed that we don't see Mount San Jacinto because it's gone over the curve of the Earth, of a globe Earth. And then with the infrared camera, you can see Mount San Jacinto, meaning that it is there. As in, it's not gone over the curve of a globe. So I thought the Mount Canago thing was a pretty good point. I do remember that because, refraction, as they are 7/6R, which is not refraction, but what they'll try and they're over 6R terrestrial nonsense they'll try and use. What they have to actually state in those circumstances is that it waits for that exact time of year and then it shows Mount Canago to you. That's basically what they have to claim, right? That their terrestrial over 6R is somehow sentient. That's the basis of their claim, because that's what they must. That's the only way they can explain it. So that was pretty good.
So we see too far.
Basically.
It wasn't even really a see too far. It was that we can see something that they're claiming should be hidden. And we see it at the same time twice a year, every year. Which means that their only explanation for it is that somehow they have their globe has sentient terrestrial over 6R that knows exactly when to bring up the mountain above where the horizon the geometric edge that would be there if it was, and also stretch out the horizon that is there. You know what I mean? It's like it's really, you're going into absolute craziness if you're trying to look at it from a globe, what's going on there from a globe point of view. So that I like that. I can't say I dislike that. I like that point.
Sure.
It does a great job at debunking the globe.
Yep. 2018 called. But I can see, I got it. We see too far. Great.
You should have mentioned about the elevation of the mountain, because it was referred to there several times, how we get the elevation of the mountain, proving a flat earth, rather than asserting of how much of that mountain should or not be obstructed by a curvature that's not existent. So
that's a good point.
It should have
That's a good point.
It should have gone to prove. Yeah.
Yeah, they're going to run into elevation. Nathan, you just sit back and wait, don't you?
Basically, it's one of those trigger words that as soon as they say it.
There's no way out of it, too. No way out of it.
As soon as they say height.
Yep, I got it.
I was saying on yesterday's show before you joined, QE, that I think an appreciation of the origin of globe measurements, that is to say, elevation angles and such like, could be the linchpin. The reason that everyone says, I knew all along, I always knew it was flat. That could be the linchpin, couldn't it? A justifiable reason why people go, no, I always knew that we measured it flat. It's just a model that we use to better understand the stars and that. Or whatever their justification is. But that's a reasonable reason to do that. I always knew it was measured flat.
Who's saying that?
Yeah, And it
Nobody
makes
yet.
all the sense in the world to turn it into a globe after that? What sense does that make?
Who are you attempting to portray here, Nathan?
Everybody eventually. I'm just saying that once people appreciate what we're currently putting down in 2024, Earth is measured flat for their globe faith, getting people to understand how an advanced understanding of the globe would lead you to flat Earth measurements is a reason that people could start saying, oh, I always understood Earth was measured flat, Earth is flat. So how'd you go from it being ridiculed and violently opposed and seen as a joke to accepted as having always been the case? Well, it has always been the case. The globe measurements come from a flat Earth. And if we can point that out to people, it's something that they can say, oh, yeah, I always knew that. Oh, I always knew that the measurements were in flat Earth. Rather than, oh, well, it's just so big. It's flat because it's so big. In other words, justifying the globe with it. The reverse could be true in 5-10 years' time.
I got that last night. There's too biggie.
Yeah, that's it.
Again.
That's them saying we accept that we measure it flat. And here's my apologetics for why we don't measure it globe-shaped.
Well, people, like if they were being honest, they would say, let's say if you're someone who did measure, like a surveyor or something, in a couple of years' time, if you just kind of never paid any attention to the radius and the circumference and what all those measurements that you made would mean on the surface of a globe, then he or she could say, you know, I always measured it flat. And it always seemed to be flat. I just thought that it was still a globe because the Earth is very big. I never gave it a second thought. You know, that would be an honest position. There'd be a lot of people that probably will say, you know, I always knew it was flat, which is not untrue either, because everyone knows it is. They just don't want to accept it. Let's be honest.
Hold on, but what about pilots, though, Brian?
Sorry?
But what about pilots?
Everybody knows it is, Neil. They just don't want to accept it. That's the thing. They're taught that it's not. They experience it that it is. They're taught that it's not, and they don't want to accept then that it is because of the ridicule that will come upon them. You know, I think there's a lot of that. It's not so much that they're going, oh, I know it's flat, but I'm not saying it because of ridicule. It's like the idea of lending yourself to that position is a no-go area. You know, I think for people, and I think it's just a case of people just not willing to accept that it is. But in time to come, everyone will be it will be a true statement to say, you know, I knew what always was.
Yeah, but I think you're right. It's because they put that Earth so big, they just overlook everything, pilots and all. You can't tell me every pilot knows it's flat. They just think Earth is so damn big that they're flying over a globe.
Well, last night when he said the Earth's too biggy, I said, well, how biggy is it? I went down that route. You guys have wanted that a different way.
I want to hear more about that, yeah.
What did he say?
It's typical. He's said the Earth's too biggy, and I said, well, how big is it? Of course, he didn't know. I said, well, how did they figure that out? And the only way that he could go, there's only two ways to go, Eratosthenes and Al-Biruni, but they both used elevation angles. But I already went over elevation angles as my first point. Well, I did the horizon as the first point. You know, the y equals mx plus b. You know, the slope-a-dope. I slope-a-doped them. Then I went to elevation angles, latitude, longitude system, celestial navigation, did that, explained what elevation angles were, and then we got into Earth too biggy, no curvy. I said, well, yeah, that's true. But then I asked him, how big is the Earth? See how it dovetailed? The only places he could go, I didn't do it intentionally. It just ends up that way. The only place he could go was Eratosthenes or Al-Biruni. Of course, he didn't know Al-Biruni, but it doesn't matter anyway. He's going back to elevation angles. So it circles back. There's a flamethrower waiting for you.
Yeah, it's a big circle to hell, isn't it? You're not
Yes,
going.
it is.
You're going nowhere.
Oh, it took like it had to be less than 5 minutes because no one was interrupting. It was like 40 people in there.
Where 24/7?
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to start getting in there again if you're over there.
I pop in there. There was no one in there, and then I popped in there, put myself on deaf and mute, and then went back 20 minutes later, and there was 35 people in there.
You'll definitely be interrupted if Neil starts going over that.
Oh yeah, it's going to get interrupted. They tried to. I had to mute one guy. He just couldn't help himself. I just wanted the conversation to be clear between me and the gentleman who was pretty amiable. You know, I know that. You know, just immediately I could tell that. So it wasn't harsh or anything. He wasn't pretender clowning. He said, "Okay, I can understand that." I said, "Do you understand what a triangle is?" Yes. So yeah. So he acquiesced to all that, and then at the end, he had just one last lifeline. Well, the reason that is because the Earth's so big. So that was it.
I never interrupt Curia 24/7. I'm there just like laughing in the background.
And you'll do that off mute.
In 24/7, there's people that got, you know, their Neil Gendas, Brian Gendas, Nathan Gendas. They want to get in there. I understand that, but just wait, right? Follow for clarity.
Well, what you're saying there is a typical case of a precipice point. This guy is either going to come back, never. He's just either going to go, you know what, it is flat and accept it. He might come back and just be a flat earther, or he might never come back. Or he'll come back a staunch anti-flat earther. Innit? It's one or the other. You're after laying out the truth for him, and it's up to him now what he does with it.
I think at one point he got a little uppity. He says, "You're not convincing me," and I said, "That's not really my concern. I'm convincing the audience. I really don't care which way you go. That's purely subjective." I welcomed the flat Earth like 5-6 times. Real quick.
Did he tell you how he found the server?
Nah, he did not.
Yeah, it's like, you're not convincing me. It's like, did I have a job title that involved me convincing you of something? It's up to you. If you can't understand, you know what I mean? Listen, buddy, if you can't understand what's being laid out here, and you're saying it's not convincing me, well, I don't think you understand evidence, you know?
Well, they're so simple proofs. And I told him, I said, be prepared, because there's this they put up a wall because they think that, you know, the Earth is a sphere, we live in the solar system, that you got billions and billions and billions of planets and light years, and this has been established for so long by incredibly intelligent people. And then you got Mr. Internet, anonymous internet, come along and destroy it all with the itty bitty right triangle. And even though the guy with the itty bitty right triangle, you know, is correct from 3rd grade geometry, it's hard. It's like, this can't be true. This is so simple to refute that all these experts and, you know, the whole paradigm can't be overcome by this. That guy and I must be missing something. Follow?
Yeah.
That's perfect.
He must believe that you're missing something. He must believe that you're not understanding something crucial, or that you have something wrong. Because it could not be that simple. That's what's going on in his head.
Yep.
You summed up my sister-in-law perfectly.
But isn't it beautiful that you can?
I might have to have you help me.
Again?
Move this desk.
Say again?
It's Danny
He's
Faulkner
hot
measuring the
magging.
table again.
Huh?
Says who? You hot magging.
We're talking about Danny Faulkner.
What? Something lead into Dr. Danny Faulkner?
Yeah, when he said about his,
Ignore it,
when he talked
ignore it.
about measurements.
This is the thing. This is where the globe has people. The people believe that there are these authority figures out there. You know, Neil deGrasse Tyson, Brian Cox, these type of people, or even other people they don't know about, but are brilliant science people who know this and understand this and have all the rebuttals to the right angle triangle issue that you're putting forward, right? The way that right angle triangle won't go on the surface of the globe, not vertically or horizontally. It's not going to fit. Yet we use them to measure massive areas of the Earth, right, with precision. But must be a way around this that this person I'm speaking to just doesn't understand or has missed or something. They know you're not stupid because you're obviously able to detail things that a stupid person wouldn't be able to detail and present stuff. So the only conclusion they can come to is that there's just a piece of information that you're missing. You know, this kind of thing. It's like, no, you have been brainwashed into believing that there is people out there who are authority figures who have all these answers. There isn't an answer to it, other than it's not a globe. That's the answer. But you don't want to accept that.
Deep indoctrination.
Well, the globe is built around authority figures, isn't it? That's what it's all built around, authority figures. You know, in the science community kind of nonsense. There's someone out there who has all the globe knowledge, a group of super brilliant people. They probably work at CERN. You know, this kind of attitude.
Either get that or why would they lie?
Well, they're so busy doing really important stuff that they don't have the time to relay the important information to this guy on Discord. You know, to correct him on where he's wrong. That's what's going on in people's heads.
Yeah, you can't expect someone just to turn on a penny and change their entire paradigm for one conversation. He's got to go away, verify the information. Did you give him your website, John?
No, I did not. I didn't think of it. I think somebody posted it in there, though. So I don't know if he got it.
What is that website? What's the name?
I would have to.
GlobeTerminator.com.
GlobeTerminator.com, you say?
Yes, sir. Got flat Earth proofs, and it has scientific evidences for a creator.
You can find all that at GlobeTerminator.com. It's amazing.
Yes, you can.
Fantastic. Let's say that name one more time. GlobeTerminator.com.
There's a shop there as well.
I did run into another video. It was on Skype. It was posted by Liam. Who is Liam? I don't know Liam.
Yeah, it's me, mate.
Is that you?
Yeah, it's me.
Oh, right. I listened to your video that you posted in there. You said it was a potential review one? Oh, yeah. I'll tell you what. You want to get super frustrated real quick, Nathan. Go ahead and listen to that nonsense.
Dave versus Dave.
No, it's Flat Earth, a deep dive. It's 13 minutes after the hour yesterday, posted by Liam. It's a guy, numpty dipshit, looking at a straw man Earth and a fairy tale second law of thermodynamics violation with a tinfoil cap.
Yeah, I don't mind doing that tomorrow. Cool. With that, I'll say another huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.